It was a perfect day, with golden sunlight pouring down like honey and the air crisp and refreshing. A young man was sipping a warm cup of tea, his eyes glued to his computer screen as if drawn by a magnet. He was scrolling through a gaming forum where new topics were popping up like mushrooms after rain, each promising some insane new drama. He clicked on a post, and the comments immediately assaulted his eyes. The game servers are going nuts. Some stupid dragon popped out of nowhere and wiped my save data. What the hell is this Dread Dragon thing? It says my character is dead and I can't log in anymore. What the hell is going on? My character just got deleted. Reading this, our hero was a bit confused. The final boss in a dating sim, is that overpowered? He thought the game would have a romantic, happy ending if the main characters fell in love. Scrolling down, another post caught the attention of the entire gaming community. Everyone, listen up. This boss is unbeatable. This cursed Dread Dragon has a passive that gives it 99% magic resistance, no cooldowns, and it keeps screwing me over with a magic absorption skill, while also shooting spells. How am I supposed to kill this thing? It has to be a game bug. Our MC's eyes widened as he realized this was a post from a top-tier streamer in the gaming community. Intrigued, he put down his tea, his eyes gleaming. The final boss, huh? This is getting interesting. He rested his chin on his hand, carefully reading another player's analysis. Strange, a monster immune to magic in a world full of it? That's ridiculous. Is it really a bug? People are saying their characters are getting wiped without a trace. Oh, this has to be it. Just then, an SOS notification flashed on his screen. The Dread Dragon, devourer of the 13th moon, has appeared. The MC couldn't contain his curiosity. He clicked to read the game's story. In the world of mythos, there exists a dark cult known as the Dread Dragon Cultists. Their goal is to invade other worlds, using what's known as the Persona Gates to become the final boss of the universe. When their goal is complete, the Dread Dragon will make its debut. And just like that, 90% of the continent was swallowed by the Persona Gates. Reading this, the MC's jaw dropped. His eyes went wide. I've only been doing PvP, I never paid attention to the main story, but this is insane. He felt a bit intimidated, but then a thought struck him. Wait, aren't I playing this game right now? Maybe I should go all out just once. With that, he moved his mouse to the notification bar. Do you want to fight the Dread Dragon? Please select yes or no. Without a moment's delay, he chose yes. Let's do this while it's hot. I'll show them the skills I've honed for the past 10 years, the MC declared with immense confidence. A quick rundown on the character, Beck Irian. He's a total anomaly in the game, the only one who can't use magic. Even though in this game, everyone can sling fireballs like it's nothing. But even the most veteran players wouldn't touch this useless character. To put it bluntly, this character is weaker than an NPC. However, he does have a tiny bit of magic, but it's only a single spell. Back to the battle. The Dread Dragon was cosplaying a flamethrower, gathering a colossal fireball in its mouth. A moment later, it opened its maw and spat out the massive sphere of power. The fireball shot towards Beck Irian with lightning speed. Facing this life-or-death situation, Beck Irian remained perfectly cool. He even smirked, as if to say, "You're not on my level." He then activated his signature skill, a high-speed flash step. He lunged forward, slashing at the dragon's neck. And then, flash step and another flash step nonstop. Beck Irian's flash step allows him to teleport to another location within a 3 to 10 meter range in the blink of an eye. But here's the catch. The destination is random. If you don't time it perfectly, you're toast. He could die instantly due to the terrifying speed and impact force. Furthermore, the cooldown and mana cost were brutal, and you're frozen for 2 seconds after using it. So, while anyone could learn it, nobody was foolish enough to use it. However, Beck Irian was a different story. He had mastered this one skill. Nothing else. Not only that, he could even control the direction and distance of his teleportation. And the craziest part? He knew how to bypass the penalty. The skill cost him 0 mana. And it's not like Beck-Irian's character had a mana stat to begin with. Unlike other spells, Flash Step was purely a movement skill. But I became obsessed with his character back when everything was based on skill levels. So for the past 10 years, I've only played this one character who uses no magic in combat. Just then, Beck-Irian charged forward and carved a long gash across the Dread Dragon's face. Not stopping there, he delivered a powerful, decisive slash that cut the Demon King in two. This guy was definitely not to be messed with. In the aftermath, he stood proudly, like a god descended to earth. A notification appeared. You have defeated the final boss, Devourer of the 13th Moon. In reality, the MC couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. What the hell? I actually killed the final boss, the Dread Dragon. I know I equipped him with rare ancient artifact from head to toe, but this is still a trash tier character. This is a miracle. But whatever, this is awesome. I have to go brag to the community that I just killed the Dread Dragon. But before he could even start flexing, his computer screen lit up with a storm of red notifications. Error. You have reached a bugged ending where 90% of the world of Mythos is destroyed. However, you have come very close to the true ending. Staring at these messages, the MC's jaw dropped in shock. Holy crap, what is this? Before he could process it, another notification popped up. Please find the true ending. At this point, the young man screamed in confusion, "What is going on?" And then, our protagonist mysteriously vanished from his own room. The moment he opened his eyes, he was greeted by a completely alien landscape. Our hero was currently face down on the ground. He struggled to sit up, his head spinning like a top, and groaned. What just happened? His body suddenly trembled. He looked around and exclaimed, "Where am I?" Suddenly, a blinding light caught his attention. He soon realized it was a mirror. He moved closer, leaned in, and then, what the hell? He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw his current appearance. It was a familiar face he had known for over 10 years. It was Beck-Irian. But before he could make sense of anything, a notification appeared before him. Episode 1. Escape the Pursuit. The MC had a sudden realization. Isn't this Beck-Irian's tutorial quest? He couldn't believe what was happening. No way. Am I dreaming? Just then, he reached into his pocket and grabbed something. What made him freeze for a full 5 seconds was an acceptance letter to the Stella Academy. And at this point, even though he didn't want to admit it, Beck-Irian could pretty much guess where he was. This has to be the world of Mythos. So from now on, I'm Beck-Irian. At this thought, he buried his face in his hands, unable to even cry. But I need to think logically. That voice told me to find the true ending. But from what I know, this game doesn't have a damn true ending. It has countless possible endings. Suddenly, his eyes widened in horror as a thought struck him. Wait a minute. Could it be that no one has unlocked the true ending in the last 10 years? Damn it, but I don't have time to think about this. If I remember correctly, right after Beck-Irian wakes up, the Dread Dragon cultists show up and storm the house. With that thought, he rushed to the window to peek outside. Before him was a group of men dressed identically in black. In the falling snow, they were frantically searching for him, shouting, "Damn it, where did that brat run off to?" Seeing this, our hero's heart skipped a beat as he hid behind the door. Peeking out, he thought to himself, "This is bad. They're already here." Outside, one of the men with blank white eyes spotted something. He pointed in the distance and yelled, "Hey guys, there's a house over there. Let's go search it." At his command, the whole group responded in unison. He realized the immediate danger, but panicked, unsure of what to do. He recalled that there was a time limit for evading them in the game. But I can't possibly fight them all by myself. As he was panicking, the system suddenly displayed a message. You can use Flash Step. This suggestion left our hero bewildered. Huh, I can use Flash Step. Born with a body suffering from mana leak syndrome, Bek-Irian, unable to accumulate mana, could only rely on one thing, the spell he had spent his entire life practicing. Back in the present, snow continued to blanket the forest. Inside the old cabin, Bek-Irian was still pondering the system suggestion. But my flash step is only at level 0, with a maximum range of 9 meters. He was utterly confused. This damn system is telling me to use flash step, but I'm not sitting in front of a computer with a mouse. So how the hell do I activate it? Outside, the Dread Dragon cultists were charging towards the house like madmen. The sound of footsteps grew closer, making our hero even more frantic. Damn it, they're here. I have to do something. There was no time left. Screw it, I'll risk it all against you guys. Just as the cultists arrived, they spotted something. Their eyes filled with rage. One of them yelled, "Boss, I found the bastard. After him. Capture him alive." They all charged after him, roaring, "Stop! Don't let him escape. Get him!" Meanwhile, our hero was running for his life. This was the first challenge of the tutorial. Use flash step to lose the pursuers. As he ran, he thought, they're wearing magic boots, so they're faster than me. The only way to escape is to use flash step. Calm down, I've done this countless times. So I should know how to time it perfectly. By now, they were right behind him, shouting, "Hey, brat, you're not going to stop?" Glancing back, he realized it was true. Damn it, they've already caught up. But there's a critical weakness to flash step. If the user misjudges the distance, they'll slam into objects and die instantly. However, with me, things will be different, Bek-Irian thought to himself as he ran. At that moment, the leader of the Dread Dragon cultists was right behind him. He raised his sword and roared, "Let me send you to hell. Die, you dog." In that split second, on the verge of life and death, he used flash step to escape. He thought with a surge of joy, "Awesome, it worked." He left the Dread Dragon cultists standing there, jaws agape. "Nanny, what was that? Flash step? Is that little brat a mage too?" Seeing his idiotic underlings lose their composure, the leader turned to calm him down. "Don't lose hope. Flash step has a weakness. The user is paralyzed for about 2 seconds. This is our chance to strike." As he said this, he turned to look at Bek-Irian and was so shocked he couldn't believe his eyes. Damn it. Wait, how is that kid still moving? On the other side, Irian was still running for his life, encouraging himself as he went. "Careful. I have to be more careful. Come on. I need to use this rough terrain to escape." If a player didn't learn how to use flash step at this point, their only option was to die here. In fact, 99% of players who chose Bek-Irian couldn't complete the tutorial. As for the remaining 1%, even if they passed the tutorial, they couldn't master controlling the flash step distance and using it consecutively. With this in mind, he madly used flash step, then flash step again, moving from one position to another. This left the Dread Dragon cultists completely stunned. Whoa, he dares to use flash step on terrain like this. Is this kid insane? Then he turned to his comrades and said, "Anyone who can use magic, get to the front. We'll attack him from a distance." At his word, 3 men stepped forward, their faces filled with murderous intent. Noticing they were no longer chasing him from behind, our hero glanced back. A new worry crossed his mind. Crap, are they going to use magic? And the second part of the tutorial was to use flash step to dodge magic arrows. Damn it, when I played the game, I could see what was behind me on the screen, so dodging wasn't hard. Suddenly, the system displayed a notification. Mana Leak Syndrome skill activated. Mana Leak Syndrome activates Sixth Sense and accelerates perception. As soon as he received the notification, Bek-Irian suddenly felt sword auras approaching him from behind, even though he didn't need to turn around. And just like that, he could easily dodge these sword strikes. At the same time, a massive dark aura shot towards him. Irian instantly realized this was the moment to use flash step. In the end, he luckily escaped the fatal attack. A deafening explosion roared, boom, like a meteor crashing to Earth. The force was so powerful that Beck-Irian couldn't stay on his feet and had to brace himself with his hands. The dust from the explosion slowly began to settle. But the aftermath it left was a massive crater. Only then did Irian regain his composure and think, holy crap, that was a close call. I almost died. But this was no time to rest, and so he started running headlong again. Suddenly, his eyes widened in terror. Before him was a bottomless abyss. One wrong step, and he'd be meeting his ancestors. And this was the third challenge of the tutorial. Use flash step to cross the abyss. He thought, I guess the only way to get to the other side is to perfectly time the flash step distance. After that, I'll meet some passing mages and escape. That's the end of the tutorial. But to pass this part, I have to cast Flash Step, which has a 0.1 second activation time. Failing even once means death. There were about 20 floating rocks here. But with only 0.1 seconds, it was easier said than done. I don't know what kind of sadistic bastard wrote the script for this tutorial. However, it's not impossible. The problem is, just as he was thinking, the voice of a dread dragon cultist shouted, "There he is, right in front of us." At the same time, the group caught up to him. The hero was startled and glanced back, thinking, the pursuers are closer than I thought. The distance between us is probably only 100 meters, and Flash Step has a 3-second cooldown, so I don't have enough time to get to the other side. That leaves me with only one option. Kill them all. Following that, Beck-Irian ducked behind a tree to plan his attack. He thought to himself, this is insane. Why did I think I could manage this after just one fight? If this were a game, the system wouldn't allow these mobs to stick so close. But this is reality. There's no rule that says I have to blindly follow the game system. Killing someone who isn't even worth my time. The reason isn't because they're my parents' enemies like in the game's plot. Finally, they're here. Beck-Irian gripped his sword defensively, his face filled with determination. Come on, you bastards. I'll take you all on. Just a few seconds later, they reached Beck-Irian's position. The leader, still fuming, his face red with anger, yelled, "It's him. That's the little punk. Get that brat from me." With his command, the entire group roared and charged forward. Every single one of them looked absolutely furious. On the other side, Beck-Irian remained perfectly calm, not flinching in the slightest. Seeing the kid's courage, one of the cultists sneered, "You dare to fight us alone? How foolish. You're finished, kid." But our hero was highly focused, observing to make the right judgment. He noticed the distance to his target was about 8.7 meters. Immediately after, he unleashed his Flash Step skill, rushing towards the man. The black-robed cultist didn't even have time to realize what was happening before his life was on the line. The leader, standing nearby, had to widen his eyes in shock. But Beck-Irian's face was filled with determination. He showed no mercy. The speed was too fast and too deadly, causing the man in black to spit out a large mouthful of blood. It splattered directly onto Beck-Irian. He watched the fresh blood drip from his fingertips. But right now, Beck-Irian felt no guilt at all. If they didn't die, he would be the one to die. He had to kill all of them to survive. With this thought, he delivered a powerful slash. Then he kicked him hard to vent his anger. It looked like a light kick, but the man was sent flying back towards the other cultists. This made them even more furious. After taking down one of them, he immediately turned to run. Perhaps his Flash Step also needed time to cool down, so he couldn't risk a direct confrontation right now. When the cultists realized he was running away, they grew even angrier and yelled like madmen. "Damn it, he's running. Don't let him get away at any cost." Beck-Irian ran, thinking, I just took one down, but it won't be this easy next time. What should I do? Why is it so quiet behind me? Did they stop chasing? Just as he thought this, they suddenly appeared right in front of him. But now, there was no more time for him to run. He thought, aren't they going to use magic again? How do I dodge these bastards? Meanwhile, the leader of the cultists was barking orders to his underlings. Do it! The moment he finished speaking, a bizarre magic circle appeared. Immediately after, it aimed straight for Bek-Irian's position. All he could see was a massive flame arrow hurtling towards him. Bek-Irian was extremely tense. And it wasn't just one arrow. A barrage of fire arrows was flying straight at him. In this situation, he didn't know how to escape, only cursing silently. Damn it, you curse spells. Ah, that's right. I have an idea. In front of him, a tree branch grew out a rock crevice. In this life or death moment, he used his flash step skill and dashed towards the branch. And then a huge explosion erupted right after. Boom, boom, boom. The explosion created a large crater with dust flying everywhere. On the other side, one of the cultists looked quite pleased and smirked. Serves that strange little brat right. But his joy was short-lived as he noticed there was no body in the crater before him. He muttered in surprise. Where did he go? While he was still confused, Bek-Irian had not only escaped their magic, but was also using his flash step skill to charge towards this man. By the time the cultist realized, Bek-Irian was right in his face. The two of them stared at each other, eye to eye. The flash step technique requires equal momentum before and after use. Without any hesitation, he used flash step again, lunging forward and landing a powerful slash. All that could be heard was a blood-curdling scream echoing in the distance. Witnessing this scene shocked the entire group of cultists to their core. What the hell is happening? Not stopping there, Bek-Irian pushed the blade deeper, causing the man to cough up blood and die instantly. The cultists still couldn't understand where this kid got such powerful magic or why he had become so brutal. After dealing with two of them, he seemed exhausted. Covered in blood, he thought, 2 down. But I have to hurry before they recover. The man with the scar spoke up. What a freak. 2 of them. His reaction speed is too bizarre for a mage. Who the hell are you? Hearing this, Bek-Irian thought to himself. My reaction speed must be superior to all other players. But that's only in the game. I can't dodge their attacks forever, especially at this range. I have to finish them all quickly. With that thought, he risked it all and charged forward. The scar-faced man, who had been observing, exclaimed, I've figured out your movements. This kid can only use flash step and a dagger. I just need to defend my face and neck, and he won't be able to touch me. So he held his sword defensively with a provocative attitude. Come on, bring it on. Then he shouted, I spell. Meanwhile, Bek-Irian was still showcasing his incredible flash step skills. At the same time, the scar-faced man was unleashing an intense wave of power towards him. He was quite confident in his strategy, thinking, haha, I've almost got you. Now let's see you writhe in pain. But his smugness didn't last long as he was shocked to his core. Bek-Irian was not only unharmed, but had also dashed towards the scar-faced man's companion and instantly took him out. Witnessing this scene made the scar-faced man's hair stand on end as he trembled and exclaimed, Damn it! Before, you were just hiding and scurrying around like a timid mouse, but now you dare to fight back. Our hero, covered in fresh blood, coldly replied, Yes, but that was the old me. In any case, I have to thank you all for helping me get stronger every day. Hearing this, the man angrily retorted, You bastard. That was only because we were going easy on you. Prepare to die. With those words, Bek-Irian's powerful footsteps drew closer. His face was now filled with a ferocious, murderous aura. Then he quickly threw his spear at him. Seeing the spear heading towards him, the man predicted in his mind. A flash step aimed at an undefended spot. He must be planning to throw the spear to make me block it, then attack me from behind. Dream on, kid. Don't be stupid. As he thought this, the spear was right in front of his face. The man simply swung his sword and cut the spear in half. Then he smirked triumphantly. And now, I just need to turn around and finish him off. But it seemed his judgment was wrong. He just stood there, stunned, and weakly uttered, "Huh?" Then he gritted his teeth, his face contorted in inexplicable pain. This time, Beck-Irian didn't attack from behind, as he had predicted. He attacked him directly from the front. He used all his strength to pierce through his heart, much to his astonishment. The scar-faced man, unwilling to accept defeat, weakly cried out. Damn, he was planning to attack from the front all along. And so, Chapter 1, Escape the Pursuit, was completed. After killing the entire group, the system displayed a notification. You have received experience. You have received a gift from the Constellation Project for developing a unique story. As for our hero, he seemed quite exhausted and collapsed to his knees. His breathing became ragged, and he trembled uncontrollably. Cough, cough. He looked down at his blood-soaked hands, then glanced around. Like many other transmigrated characters, at first, they think it's just a dream. But no, it was all real. This wasn't a dream. The hero recalled the fight for survival that had just taken place. That was his first flash step in this world. It was also his first battle, and more than that, it was his first time killing someone. The truth is, I killed people to survive. A moment later, the hero slowly stood up, brushing the dirt off his clothes. Staring at the path ahead, he told himself, Anyway, I've been transmigrated here. First things first, I need to get out of this place. Suddenly, a thought popped into his head. He turned back to look at the people he had just defeated. He still seemed hesitant, a touch of sadness in his eyes. But then he bent down and started patting their pockets. He rummaged through their pockets, thinking, this might be a bit scummy, but I have to be realistic. I don't have a single coin to my name right now. After a bit of searching, he finally found a pouch of sparkling gold coins. He rejoiced silently. This must be about 2,000,000 won. It's better than nothing, right? A silver lining in this mess. But his joy was short-lived as another problem arose. He looked at the path ahead and felt a sense of dread. In front of him was a bottomless cliff. One slip and he'd be a goner for sure. Standing on the edge of life and death, he panicked. How am I supposed to cross this cliff? Suddenly, a loud voice called from the other side. Is anyone there? He immediately looked up. Seeing our hero still standing there, the group of people waved their hands and called again. Hey, this way. We're over here. He realized that this was the group of mages that appear in the tutorial. Immediately after, he started shouting like a madman. I'm here. I'm here. On the other side, one person replied, but there's no bridge nearby. Can you even get across? Yes, I'm on my way, our hero answered. Receiving his signal, the girl turned to the others and said, Let's wait for him for a bit. He said he can cross. The blue-haired young man next to her still seemed hesitant. But crossing this cliff is no simple matter. He'd have to be at least a third-rank knight to even have a chance. Can that young man really do it? She replied, I'm not sure. As she said this, her eyes suddenly widened in astonishment. He was leaping from one rock to another with grace and skill. The whole group watched jaws agape, holding their breath. At that moment, Beck-Irian was concentrating intently, trying to cross, section by section. As fast as a lightning bolt, he had already made it halfway. The group watching this scene couldn't believe their eyes and exclaimed, What kind of skill is that? Some kind of jumping magic. Someone else replied, That's Flash Step. The voice came from a blue-haired girl standing behind them. The girl looked quite pretty and adorable. The purple-haired woman turned to look at the girl, then back at our hero, and said in confusion, That's Flash Step? But Flash Step can't be controlled with such precision in direction and distance. That's pretty much impossible. He looks so effortless and skilled. Outsiders might see it that way, but our hero was actually struggling quite a bit. Suddenly, the woman saw something and her eyes widened in alarm as she stuttered. Who are those two? Are they with him? At that moment, on the other side, two figures in black were approaching the cliff edge. While the group here was still confused, one of the figures on the other side began using a magic staff, creating an orange aura of power that radiated outwards. Immediately after, he pointed his hand forward, forming a bizarre magic circle. Then it shot straight towards our hero. Suddenly, a shout rang out. "Hey, watch your back!" At that moment, our hero also felt the terrifying power hurtling towards him and cursed under his breath. Damn it! Just as it was about to hit him, he used Flash Step to move to another spot, luckily escaping with his life. All he saw behind him was a massive explosion. Boom! He glanced back to see who was ambushing him. As the dust from the explosion settled, the figures of the two men in black emerged. He thought to himself, "So, it's those mercenaries from before. They've revived. This is too dangerous." And Flash Step's cooldown is still 3 seconds. Dodging all that magic is impossible. I need to find another floating rock to stand on. As he thought this, his eyes suddenly widened in horror. Whoa, what the hell? It turned out the Dread Dragon cultists wouldn't let him escape so easily and had immediately activated a spell, firing it straight at him. Luckily for Beck-Irian, he managed to lean to the side and dodge the blast. But life isn't always a dream. Just as he dodged, the rock beneath his feet cracked and split in two. He struggled to keep his balance but failed, falling backwards into the endless void. Yet, his will to survive burned brightly. He thrashed about desperately on the brink of death, telling himself, "I have to live. I must live." But life isn't like a fairy tale. The floating rocks seemed to be mocking him, impossibly far away. With a final glimmer of hope, he wished he could just land on one of them. And then, as if the universe heard his plea, his eyes lit up as he spotted a nearby rock. It seemed his time wasn't up yet. The heavens were still on his side. Without a second's hesitation, he unleashed his Flash Step, launching himself towards the rock like an arrow. His efforts were not in vain. His hands gripped the edge of the rock. His hands were now like a vice, clinging to his hope of survival. He glanced back, his voice trembling. Did I survive? His joy was short-lived. Before he could even catch his breath, a massive orange energy blast, looking like an SOS signal, came roaring towards him from behind. A desperate thought flashed through his mind. Maybe I'll die here after all. Just as the Grim Reaper was about to touch his heel, when our hero had prepared himself to meet his maker, oh my God, a stream of jade-green power shot out from nowhere like a savior. Immediately after, the two streams of power collided, creating a massive explosion. Boom, boom, boom. The shockwave was so powerful it felt like it would tear space apart. He had to use all his strength just to hold on. Then, as is often the case, the calm after the storm arrived. As the dust settled, our hero was still intact. That's the power of a protagonist's plot armor. The main character can't die that easily. His head still ringing, he dazedly wondered, what was that spell just now? An ice spear wrapped in lightning. Hello? Who's so OP that they can mix two techniques into one devastating attack? And they aimed it perfectly, not a single drop of mana wasted. What master could unleash such a flawless technique? Looking into the distance, the remaining Dread Dragon cultists were staring at a slender, blue-haired figure. Standing at the center of attention, the beautiful woman's face remained as cold as ice, without a hint of emotion. Witnessing the display just now, everyone's face turned pale. One of them stuttered, "Damn, no way. How could she possibly do something so extraordinary?" The two mercenaries on the other side of the battle line saw that this fight was too tough and decided to bail. They were still too green, so they quietly vanished. Our hero watched the backs of those wannabe heroes and let out a loud sigh of relief. Phew. Thank God I'm still alive. After struggling for a while, the young man finally made it safely to the other side, where everyone was waiting to welcome him warmly. Only the cool, blue-haired girl completely ignored him, turning away without a single glance. Seeing his savior, our hero quickly ran after her, calling out, "Hey, thanks for saving me back there." The female warrior glanced at him briefly, her voice still as cold as ice. I didn't do it to receive any gratitude, so you don't need to thank me. With that, she turned and walked away coldly. Our hero froze for 5 seconds, then muttered, Watching her elegant back, he fell into a stream of thought. This girl is interesting. I've never heard such a cute voice before, although she seems hard to approach. But what's important is that the bandits who were pillaging the village have paid the price. The truth is, most of these village raids are the work of the Dread Dragon cult. Luckily, this nightmare ends here. That was a close call, a real life-or-death situation. But after crossing that godforsaken cliff, I've officially entered mage territory. The Dread Dragon cult would need wings to follow me here. Thinking this, he sighed in relief, silently mocking them. And those dogs don't even know who I am. Suddenly, ding, the system announced a new notification. Chapter 2, Admission to Stella Academy. Looking at the brand new quest board, he couldn't help but be amazed. This is a university? Wow, it doesn't sound too bad. But still, how am I supposed to go through school at this age? And so, the group got on a carriage, heading straight for Stella Academy. Night fell, and the road they traveled became increasingly deserted and strangely quiet. Only the steady, rhythmic clatter of the horse-drawn carriage wheels could be heard. Inside the carriage, perhaps exhausted from a day of life-or-death struggles, our hero was sleeping like a log. Suddenly, he let out a few muffled sounds in his sleep. His mind drifted into memories, pieces of the past coming back to him. An image of a chubby little boy appeared, tugging at his mother's sleeve, his voice chirping, "Mommy, Mommy." And the gentle mother replied, "My dear son, when you grow up, you'll become a mage. I believe you can do it, my sweet Irian." He remembered flipping through his mother's old diaries, realizing how hard his parents had worked to raise him. Back then, the little boy had promised himself to study hard to make his parents proud. The long nights spent poring over books, often falling asleep without realizing it, were always met with his mother's gentle hand tucking him in with a warm blanket. The stream of memories suddenly rushed back, replaying the day his mother received news from the doctor. She was utterly devastated and exclaimed, "Doctor, did you just say my son has Manhwa syndrome?" The boy himself was crushed, unable to believe the harsh reality. "No, it can't be." With those words, his eyes filled with tears. But were these Irian's memories, or just fragments of his own past? The wandering thoughts were abruptly cut off. Our hero suddenly woke up. His head was spinning, and he unconsciously put a hand to his head. Glancing out the window, he saw that dawn was breaking. The sunlight began to seep in. Noticing that the hero was awake, a fellow traveler in the carriage asked, "You're up? It looked like you were having a nightmare. You were saying something I couldn't understand at all. I was about to wake you up." Just then, a voice from outside called in, "We're about to arrive in La Jolla, the satellite city of Arcanium." The carriage slowly came to a stop. Another voice called out, "Let's stop here for a short break." The group quickly got out of the carriage to breathe in the fresh air. His body a bit sore, our hero stretched satisfyingly. Suddenly, he was a bit surprised, his eyes widening as he looked in one direction. Coincidentally, the blue-haired girl was staring at him without blinking. In that moment, he was about to raise his hand to say hello out of courtesy. But before he could speak, she coldly turned away. This action made him feel a bit awkward, and he could only manage a forced smile, thinking to himself, "This girl is really cool." However, things are going pretty well compared to his earlier worries. He was silently glad that this timeline was closer to the modern era than some distant medieval age. Magic still existed in this world of mythos, but in the safe cities, trains, airships, and sky roads were all sturdily built. And to make the long journey more chill, the group would travel to Leora on an incredibly modern airship. Leora was on the route to Arcanium. In Arcanium, known as the capital of magic, everything truly began. Mysterious magic towers, solemn mage councils, and 5 prestigious academies were all located in Arcanium. The academy, with the most powerful mages and the most top-tier students, was Stella Academy. Therefore, Stella was a gathering place for countless geniuses and nobles from all over the world. However, our hero still couldn't fathom why Beck Irian, the body he was possessing, could get into such a prestigious school. He almost forgot he hadn't even checked his own skills yet. With that thought, he quickly opened the system to check, and immediately the status screen appeared clearly. Mana Leak Syndrome Level 1. Strength plus 3%, Speed plus 5%, Agility plus 10%, 6 cents. Consumes user's mental energy to activate. Detects mana within a 12 m radius. Speed reading. Looking at the status screen, he silently thanked the abilities that Irian possessed. 6 cents and speed reading. Without these two, he probably would have been wiped out a long time ago. In this game, it's a cursed condition that prevents the body from concentrating mana. Mana Leak Syndrome was a divine curse that Beck Irian had to bear. However, there was a silver lining. It allowed him to sense surrounding mana through his 6th sense. It also helped him detect any attacks aimed at him, even if he couldn't see them. Speed reading allowed him to perceive everything as if time were in slow motion. If there was danger or a surprise attack, he could react faster than a normal person could perceive. It was a must-have skill for Beck Irian since he couldn't use mana. But everything comes at a price. Using 6 cents for too long consumes a lot of mental energy. Therefore, overusing it could lead to unpredictable consequences later on. Reading this, our hero scrolled to the stats section. Name, Beck Irian. Status, Strength 1.59%, Agility 1.97%, Speed 1.81%, Stamina 1.51%, Endurance 0.97%, Mental Power 1.43%, Remaining Mana 0. Skills, Flash Step Level 0. Traits, Mana Leak Syndrome Level 1. After studying the information, he thought, actually, the starting stats aren't too bad. The original Beck Irian had very low agility, but in my hands, it'll be different. I definitely have to push this. In this game world, there wasn't just one type of level. There were levels for each individual stat. Skills were displayed as levels, while stats were shown as stars. The highest stat level was 9 stars, but reaching that realm was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. He had been grinding this game for over 10 years, but the highest he ever reached was 8 stars in both stamina and agility. But for now, I should focus on investing in agility to buff my 6th sense and reaction speed. I can increase my stamina and flexibility in other ways. That's the gist of it. But the current pressing issue is the Mana Leak Syndrome. If I don't level this up, I won't last long. I need to level it up quickly to uncover the secret of the true body. And Stella Academy is the key to suppressing that syndrome. I have no other choice if I want to overturn this world's ending and cure my chronic illness. Thinking this, our hero sighed wearily. Phew, actually, I don't even care that much. Can someone please save me from this predicament? Suddenly, the system dinged loudly. You have missed some important notifications. He exclaimed in surprise. Huh? I've never seen this before. But before he could check, an urgent voice called out. Hey, everyone, let's get going. Our hero had to put aside the notifications for now. The blue-haired girl was still watching him closely, but maintained her cold expression, not saying a word. In front of them, a giant airship floated in midair, looking both modern and incredibly cool. On the ship, everyone seemed excited and expectant. Suddenly, a loudspeaker announcement came on, announcing our upcoming arrival at Arcanium. Will all passengers please be seated? At that moment, some guy saw something and looked utterly shocked. Immediately after, he used a mocking tone to taunt. Hey guys, look at that dude over there, looking around like a country bumpkin who just came to the city. He's probably never been on an airship before, huh? Following their gaze, the person they were talking about was none other than Beck Irian. He was looking around in a daze. Everything here was foreign to him. They continued their gossip. Is that guy from the countryside? He looks as clueless as a cow in a bow tie. Man, I don't get why Stella lets these peasants in. Our hero heard these taunts directed at him and looked up. They still wouldn't stop, continuing their disdainful remarks. If this gets out, it'll be so embarrassing. A few guys like him are enough to tarnish the whole academy's reputation. He kept looking at them, but then decided not to bother with their jeers. He just sighed and turned away. His reaction seemed to unnerve the guy a bit. At that moment, he thought to himself, a bunch of kids. I'm an adult. I won't stoop to their level. And it was precisely this dismissive attitude that enraged the young master. He yelled, "Hey, you punk! You dare to look at us like that? Are you tired of living?" He gritted his teeth and continued, "You little brat. You stand right there." Suddenly, a gentle voice spoke up. "Hey, what are you all making so much noise about?" The guy jumped, startled, and whipped his head around to see where the voice came from. His eyes widened in shock. In the distance was the figure of a girl with long, flowing hair. Immediately after, he stammered, "Princess Piria." Hearing this, our hero also turned to look, thinking to himself, did he say Piria? Before everyone stood a princess of breathtaking beauty, with a cold and noble aura. And this was the princess of the Adolpide kingdom, Piria Adolpide. She said nothing more and coldly walked past the group. When he saw the princess walking past him, the guy quickly put on a sycophantic smile, placed a hand on his chest, and bowed respectfully. "Your Highness." Before he could say more, the princess shot him a look as sharp as a knife, then ignored him and walked straight on. This left him completely embarrassed, his mouth hanging open, unable to speak. She just walked inside with a cold demeanor, leaving the entire group staring at each other in bewilderment, their mood completely ruined. Over here, she had just walked past our hero. He suddenly realized that she was the sworn enemy of this world. According to the script, Princess Piria was a key character in the game. She and the female lead were always at odds, but in the end, she was the one who ended up dead. No matter which route you chose, she was always brutally eliminated in most endings. Either she had to commit suicide after being ostracized by the entire academy, or she had to endure the most humiliating experiences in front of everyone. It was as if the developers had a grudge against her and wanted her to suffer through every possible hardship. At that moment, he suddenly fell into thought. I've heard she's very popular among male gamers. Her beauty is truly top tier, but she's so cold. It's like she'd send me to meet my maker if I dared to start a conversation. Suddenly, his stomach rumbled loudly, and he put a hand on it. His most pressing issue right now was to fill his empty stomach. As soon as he got to the second floor, at some stall, countless sparkling, colorful pastries were displayed before him. He randomly picked one, but as soon as he held it, his face turned green. He thought, "Oh my God, why is this so expensive?" But he had to bite the bullet and eat to fill his stomach. After eating, our hero walked out looking as lost as a fawn. He thought with frustration, damn, is eating in Arcanium always this painful on the wallet? I'm so screwed. Just then, the loudspeaker announcement came on again. Hello, hello. Urgent announcement for everyone. We will be arriving at Arcanium in 10 minutes. Will all passengers please proceed to the ground floor? I repeat, we will be arriving at Arcanium in 10 minutes. Will all passengers please proceed to the ground floor? Thank you for your cooperation. After hearing the announcement, our hero smiled and thought, finally, it's showtime. Well, this is my reality now. With that thought, he excitedly shouted, let's get this party started, everyone. A short while later, the group had arrived at Stella Academy. Looking at the unfamiliar crowd, he felt a bit out of place. He took a deep breath. Well, at least I've dealt with the immediate problem. The cultists won't be able to track me anymore. But can I survive in this godforsaken place? No, surviving in this world is tough. I wish I had some kind of treasure to save me in this situation. As he thought this, he suddenly remembered the system notifications he had missed earlier. He quickly opened the system to check. The notification read, "The Constellation Project presents you with a special reward. 1. A weapon you used in the game at a lower level. 2. A skill you obtained in the game with lower power. 3. Experience." Looking at the status, he thought deeply, "Oh, it seems this system is pretty decent. But let's see, what should I pick? Should I take the Reflector or the Dimension-Tearing Brow?" The system seemed to read his mind and immediately provided an answer. According to the search results, the rank of your equipment is too high and will be nerfed to a lower level. What about Super Spatial Flash Step? According to the search results, this skill is an upgraded version of Flash Step and cannot be obtained. However, you can use the reward to enhance your Flash Step skill. After reading this, he froze for 5 seconds, cursing the clever system. Damn it, it really has to be nerfed? Seeing him complain, the system explained, "Due to a lack of narrative energy, we cannot fully materialize it." Huh, what's that? Things that affect the story's progression are called narrative energy. If you continue to uncover hidden plot points, it will accumulate. So, in the short term, you can't let me have OP items because I'm just a newbie? He nervously awaited the system's answer. Seeing no response, he asked again, "What about the color-tinted glasses? Based on the system's results, we conclude that they can be provided." "Okay then, I'll take them." With that, the system immediately gave him the color-tinted glasses. He held the glasses in his hand, examining them. He thought with resignation, "I never imagined I'd have to wear this ridiculous thing one day." Note, the color-tinted glasses are an item that stores all the information the player has collected while playing the game. In the world of Mythos, it's impossible to recall or read information about monsters you've defeated or knowledge you've acquired. Therefore, players have created countless information-storing items in their own style. And our hero was no exception. He used the color-tinted glasses to store information. He excitedly put them on to test them out. At that moment, a mystical blue light emanated from the glasses. Immediately after, a notification appeared, "Color-tinted glasses. Rank none. Description: Can't remember what you had for dinner last night? No problem, because these glasses will save the details of everything you've ever seen and learned. Special feature: Sealed color-tinted folder. Use mental energy to activate." He then opened another folder to check. The system then displayed another notification: Alchemy ingredients, hunting grounds, dungeons, characters. Seeing this, he felt quite satisfied because this place was exactly like the real world, so he was at a loss for words about what he could do with the system. But with these glasses, I can recover about half of the power I've used. Suddenly, there were whispers behind him. "Hey, isn't that Isil?" "Oh, you mean the eldest daughter of the traitor, Duke Mond? My God, how dare she show her face here? Chill, keep it down, she'll hear you." Our hero heard the familiar name in their conversation and grew curious. "Isil, now that you mention it, one of the cool features of the color-tinted glasses is that it lets me register or check information about characters in the story. Let me check her out." Immediately, an information panel appeared. Isil Mond, fake heroine, ice lightning mage, enjoys drinking cucumber water before battles. Eldest daughter of Duke Mond, whose death caused her family to fall from grace. Ending dies. After reading this information, our hero thought to himself, "Oh, so she's the fake heroine." To talk about Isul, a fake heroine, there's one point I have to expose. Although I'm currently in the world of the Mythos game, the truth is that this world is inspired by a romance novel called Don't Love the Princess. And that novel tells the story of the heroine, Isul, who lost all her relatives. She grew up in suffering by confronting the schemes of the villain, Princess Pyria, and in the end, she gets her happy ending with a male lead. At the end, her revenge plan nearly goes up in smoke, and the other male characters step in to protect her. It had a terribly sad ending after receiving a ton of criticism from readers. But the pressing issue here is that although the game world is based on the novel, the story is completely different. In the game, a character named Flame was added and simultaneously took over the role of the heroine. Furthermore, this Flame character has her own unique, non-overlapping storyline. She was once an ordinary woman in the modern world who was addicted to reading the novel Don't Love the Princess, and then was unwillingly reincarnated into this world. So, unlike in the novel, Isul becomes a fake heroine in the game, while Flame becomes the true hero. And no matter how much gamers strategized, she couldn't clear any route. This was the consequence of her being kicked out of the true hero position. But what does that have to do with anyone? But it's strange, I don't know if I'm just imagining things. I have a feeling I've met her somewhere before, but it's probably just my imagination. It's time for me to hold my head high and face this harsh reality. After a long and stormy day, a new day dawned, with bright sunlight shining all over Stella Academy. Inside, the students were all dressed in their uniforms, standing in neat rows, listening to a speech. At that moment, the headmaster spoke up. As you all know, the Dread Dragon cultists are witches, those who have absorbed the power of other worlds and transformed into monsters. Even now, those cultists continue their invasion plots by opening Persona gates or releasing ancient dungeons to devour the magical world. And our mission, as mages, is to be the shield that protects the world from these evil forces. Hearing this, whispers started to spread among the students below. Starting a semester with a speech as bland as dishwater? Yeah, boring as hell. Meanwhile, the speech continued, and now we will hold the oath ceremony for the 4 students with the highest entrance exam scores, who will also represent the new student body. Now, please come up to the front. Immediately after, the bright faces stepped forward one by one. They were all handsome young men and beautiful young women. Their handsome faces shone as bright as the morning sun. Looking at those faces, our hero thought to himself, they all shine as bright as stars, as if they were the main characters themselves. But who is the brightest star here? Without a doubt, it's him. The headmaster's voice rang out again. Representing all the new students here, Yuziong, please come up and give your speech. At that moment, the group of fangirls below looked on with adoration. Oh my god, he's the one with the highest entrance score? How could someone be so smart and so handsome? Beck Irian looked on and had a nod in agreement. So this is my Yuziong, huh? Note, in this game, my Yuziong is the living embodiment of the phrase above the heavens and below the earth. I alone am the honored one, with a 9-star mana stat, possessing godlike potential. He is a genius among geniuses, capable of controlling all the elements in the world. Even if I can't reach the grand ending, I have to avoid the disastrous endings by pulling my Yuziong to the side of justice. However, that cute short-haired girl is probably Flame. Our hero started to rack his brain, but I'll have to play it by ear and see what moves she makes from now on. Since she's also a transmigrator from my world, maybe teaming up with her isn't a bad idea. But would things get more complicated if she sees me as a mortal enemy and I get kicked to the curb? But I have the home field advantage with information, so I shouldn't act rashly and mess anything up. Flame is a die-hard fan of the fantasy romance novel, while I'm a veteran gamer of this fantasy game. I swear I'll do it, even though my influence in the story can't even compare to a low-level villain in a shop. Furthermore, the heroine has a special ability that allows her to purify the Dread Dragon cultists. But ironically, she also has the ability to bring bad or only affect me. My role is to support the main characters from a distance and minimize my involvement with them. As he was thinking this, the school's heartthrob finished his speech. Below, everyone applauded thunderously. The headmaster's voice rang out, and with that, I declare the entrance ceremony for today officially closed. Right after attending the entrance ceremony, Beckerian's system displayed a new, hot notification. Congratulations on successfully completing the mission. Join Stella Academy. After the entrance ceremony concluded, all the students gathered in a certain auditorium. Each person freely chose a seat they liked. Our hero seemed quite lonely and thought to himself, I graduated from university ages ago, and now I'm suddenly a high school student again. It's an indescribably strange feeling. But there's one pretty cool thing about this place. He held the watch in his hand, thinking, having this is pretty good. This is a Stella watch. It certifies you as a student of the prestigious Stella Academy. If you have it, you get better privileges and services than other mages. With that thought, he happily put the watch in his pocket. I have to take advantage of this golden opportunity. Just then, someone opened the door and walked in. A man with a stone-cold face entered and walked to the podium, his voice demanding, Everyone, please maintain order in the classroom. We will begin the test immediately, so put away everything except for your writing utensils. If anyone is wearing glasses, I must inspect them first. A test right after the opening ceremony? This is intense. The curriculum at Stella Academy is more rigorous than most universities in Korea. Students have to take a test on the very first day of school. It's called a placement test, meaning this test will evaluate and sort students into their respective classes. After distributing the test papers to all the students, the teacher returned to the podium and said loudly, Attention students, you have 45 minutes to complete the test. Your time starts now. Please focus on your work. For someone who went through this system a long time ago and seemed to have forgotten everything, our hero looked at the test paper and felt sick to his stomach. His face was drenched in sweat as he thought, Oh my God, I don't even understand what I'm reading. How am I supposed to do this? This is impossible. The placement test had nothing to do with the entrance exam. It was notorious for its earth-shattering difficulty. Students were divided into classes from F to A and an S class based on their test scores. And naturally, most of the big shot characters belonged to the S class. Ironically, Beckerian was at the very bottom of the 1141 students. Our hero looked at the test paper, hesitating like a teenage girl. Maybe I should just turn in a blank paper? I've already been accepted, so they probably won't kick me out. I'll just voluntarily place myself in the F class. He glanced around the room. It seemed like everyone was buried in their test papers. Only Ma Yuziong was sitting there casually, resting his chin on his hand, lost in thought. Our hero looked back at himself with a sense of disappointment. Wait, is he already done? Did he solve everything already? No wonder he looked so bored. In the game, Ma Yuziong's character trait was being bored as hell. He was born into the most powerful family on the continent and possessed a genius intellect along with top-tier talent. Everything was a piece of cake for him. So, depending on the female lead's choices, Ma Yuziong would either lean towards good or evil. All the cultists who wanted to destroy humanity were extremely interested in him. But from the very beginning, the biggest problem was his family. But anyway, seeing a genius like him makes me reevaluate myself. He had a realization. Oh, wait a minute. Why am I being so stupid? I can use my glasses. I used them to accumulate knowledge from the library. Maybe they can be useful now. What do I have to lose? Let's give it a try. With that thought, he reached into his breast pocket and pulled out the glasses. Just as he was about to put them on, the proctor, suspicious of his behavior, walked over and said, Wait, is there a problem with your glasses? I said that if you intended to use glasses, you had to let me check them first. Let me see them. At that moment, our hero suddenly remembered. He thought to himself, all right, oh crap. I completely forgot about that. He then handed the glasses to the teacher. Holding the glasses, the teacher examined them closely. On the other side, our hero's face had turned pale, sweat beading on his forehead. He thought, I'm screwed. What do I do now? If he finds out these are magic glasses, I'm done for. He looked up, praying to all the gods to get him through this. Suddenly, the damn system displayed a notification. A missing part of the bun glasses has been detected. Do you want to summon it? This scared the crap out of our hero. No, no. Please stay put, system. Meanwhile, the proctor was still using his magic to inspect the glasses. After a while of finding nothing unusual, he returned them to our hero and said, I don't detect any mana here, but next time, ask for permission first. Our hero breathed a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted and replied cheerfully, Yes, sir, I'll remember that. He was silently overjoyed. That was close. If the original function was active, I would have been toast. He then put the glasses on, looking much more scholarly. Immediately, the answers to each question appeared clearly in his mind. Following them, he copied furiously, thinking smugly, I've hit the jackpot. Maybe I'll even get first place. With this momentum, I'll definitely escape the F class. I might even get into the A class. As he was happily copying, the teacher's voice cut in. Time's up for the test. Please stop writing and turn in your papers. The moment he finished speaking, the proctor used magic to collect the students' papers. No one could squeeze in another word. Seeing the test papers flying towards the teacher, our hero's face fell. Wait, I only answered 3 questions. At that moment, the teacher held a stack of the students' test papers. He glanced through the papers, and suddenly, his eyes widened in shock. On the other side, Beckerian was still feeling extremely dejected, thinking, I thought I had finally escaped the F class. But really, this is probably too much for this Aryan guy. He reached up to take off his glasses, when suddenly the teacher noticed something unusual. He turned to look at him in alarm and shouted, Hey, you student, give me your glasses right now. Hearing this, our hero's hair stood on end. He stammered, Why, yes, sir. The teacher held the glasses, thinking deeply. Strange. It can't be. Then he turned to him and said, Hey, you, go get Dr. Graham for me right now. Hearing this, he replied, Yes, of course. But in his heart, he was extremely confused. What's wrong with him all of a sudden? I even wrote carefully, bit by bit, to avoid being suspected of cheating. Oh no, did I get caught? A short while later, in the doctor's office, the teacher's anxious voice spoke up. Doctor, what do you think? The person holding and studying the glasses was Professor Markey, Dr. Graham. He replied, The fact that this boy was able to solve this question is indeed problematic. The teacher hurriedly asked, So, did he cheat? The doctor replied, Cheat? He's completely clean. I didn't sense any magical tool energy from the glasses or any other item. He definitely solved it on his own. Our hero, at this point, put on a face of extreme innocence. The doctor laughed with great interest and patted his shoulder. He continued, Haha, how interesting. I never expected to encounter a case like this at the end of my career. Anyway, Professor Lee Han-gu, please remember to apologize and guide this student. The teacher was a bit embarrassed and replied, Yes, of course. Then he turned to look at him and said, I misunderstood you. Please accept my sincere apology. Hearing this, our hero grinned from ear to ear, thinking, Actually, I did cheat, sir. But if the original function had been active, I'd be toast. He then replied to the teacher, It's nothing, sir. A while later, in Professor Lee Han-woo's office, the teachers were gathered here to grade the exams. When he got to a certain student's paper, the teacher was stunned. He held the paper and stared at it for a long time. He himself couldn't seem to believe his eyes at this student's work. Suddenly, someone called out, Oh, Professor Lee Han-woo, is this the exam for the top male students? Lee Han-gu replied, Yes, it is. The woman cheerfully added, I heard there are many outstanding students this year, right? And this woman was a member of the Council of Elders at Stella Academy, Professor E. Denneman. Lee Han-gu replied, That's right. There are quite a few outstanding students this year. From a most prestigious family in the fire magic world, Princess Pyria of the Adolpide Fire Kingdom. Then there's the heir to the Skaven Empire, who, at only 12 years old, thanks to his magical talent, Prince Jeremy Skaven, surpassed all his older brothers in the war for the throne. And from the most magnificent magic tower in the world, the Crescent Moon Tower, the heir to the Tower Master, Haijeng, has also joined our academy this year. Hearing this, Professor Idineman said approvingly, "Oh, I heard that creating questions for the elite students from renowned families is quite a challenge. This year's questions must be real brain busters." Professor Lee, your approval makes me very happy. As Professor Idineman mentioned, this year's exam had a new format. The first 3 questions were extremely difficult for those with only average academic ability. All 3 were trick questions with deep hidden meanings. It tested quick-wittedness. If a student was stuck, would they quickly move on to the next question? Second, how would a student handle a problem they had never encountered in a textbook? The era of rote learning magic with just theory was outdated. Now was the era of practical application, requiring quick judgment and innovative breakthrough thinking. However, those questions didn't need an answer. More than 1,000 out of 1,141 students submitted blank papers. The remaining 100 students tried desperately to find the answer, but no one got it right. Among the new students, only 3 answered correctly. They were Ma Yuziang, the genius of the century, who appeared like a shooting star, but no one knew which family he came from. The second was Flame, who was recommended to the school by the headmaster despite being a commoner, but her talent was widely recognized, second only to Ma Yuziang. And finally, Beck Irian, a complete nobody. Ma Yuziang and Flame were considered geniuses, so it was no surprise. But this Beck Irian kid had a terrible entrance score. Yet, unbelievably, he managed to solve all 3 of these tough questions, especially when he left all the other questions blank. The professor standing next to Professor Lee, seeing him deep in thought, asked curiously, "What's wrong? You seem to be paying close attention to the kid's scores." Professor Lee replied with confusion, Well, it's just that I can't seem to understand some of the students' scores." She continued, "Oh, that's understandable. Anyway, those formulas don't solve anything. Even if the kids don't know, you can still handle it. But do you think this kid is a genius?" Professor Lee asked. His senior replied nonchalantly, "It could just be a lucky break." With that, she turned and left, leaving Professor Lee standing there, stunned. He felt extremely confused, sighed, and then looked up his admission file. On the file was a note, "Special admission due to highly rated control of flash step." Seeing this, Professor Lee had to accept the harsh reality. He thought to himself, so he was personally selected by the headmaster. He really is something else. But wait, he's studying combat magic, but specializes in flash step? Interesting. But we'll soon find out if this was a coincidence or not. These 2 kids are truly special. After the exam results were out, the school used them to sort students into different classes. At that moment, everyone was excitedly going to see which class they were placed in. All you could hear were shouts of excitement. "Hey, I heard the class placements are posted on the bulletin board. I'm so nervous. My mom said if I don't get into Class A, I shouldn't even bother coming home." Our hero walked leisurely behind, thinking with frustration, "I can't believe the day has come when I have to check my class placement myself. Back in the day, I just have to click a button." With that thought, he also headed towards the bulletin board. At that moment, a kid in a blue shirt was staring at him as if he were an alien. And then came the whispers right behind him. "Is that Beck Irian? I heard he got a big fat 0 on the practical magic part of the entrance exam." "Really? I can't believe it. How did someone so bad get into Stella? I don't understand Stella's admission standards anymore." Our hero paid no attention to the gossip around him. The only thing he cared about right now was where his name was. Everything else was irrelevant. He moved closer to the bulletin board. Scanning through the list, he seemed quite confused. Where's my name?" Then he was completely shocked, thinking, "Did I fail because I only answered 3 questions? Oh my God, no way. I'm screwed." While he was feeling disappointed and dejected, The group of friends continued their continent-spanning gossip. Beckerian, how could he? There must be some mistake. This is insane. You slate from the Marquis Sigmarland's family ranked 29th and got into Class A. Even Kai, who got a perfect score on the theory part and ranked 17th, is in Class A. So how did he... Hearing people call his name in such a vague way, our hero became quite curious. A look of confusion crossed his face. What's going on? Should I go check it out? I've already failed anyway. Lost in thought, he decided to move towards the crowd to eavesdrop. Suddenly, his eyes widened in shock as his name hit him. Hello? Why is my name there? Is there some kind of mistake? What the hell? The pinnacle of prestige that every student dreamed of reaching was none other than Class S, where the most elite students of the renowned Stella Magic Academy gathered. Completely different from the regular classes where students had varying skill levels, Class S only selected a mere 41 students, and all of them were at a single, elite level. He subconsciously scratched his head, full of doubt. I'm in Class S? There must be a mistake. This is insane. Does this mean I'll be seeing the main characters of this game more often now? But getting involved with the main characters will only shorten my lifespan. I can't even change this. Well, for now, I'll just try to live a quiet life. Everything will eventually find a solution. Outside, the academy maintained its usual peaceful atmosphere. However, in a hidden corner, a woman was furious. She slapped Princess Pyria across the face with all her might. Then she frowned and yelled, "You got all 3 questions wrong. Even Princess Isul of the fallen Yuan Duchy got 2 answers right." That woman was none other than Hong Jil, the fire element professor, and also Princess Pyria's mother. She continued to scold. "You couldn't answer questions that even insects could solve. That means you're lower than an insect. You should reflect on yourself. Do you understand, Pyria?" The girl weakly replied, "Yes, mother." The mother's anger had not subsided, her sharp eyes boring into her daughter. Then she sighed, her voice choked with emotion. "My dear, listen to me. Pyria, you cannot become like me. Someone who was exiled from the kingdom and now holds this foolish professor position. You must not become a disgrace to the kingdom." At this, she bent down, gently placing her hands on her little daughter's cheeks. Her voice softened. "You must become better than your sister." Then she gave a gentle smile, like any other mother looking at her child with affection. "You understand what I mean, don't you?" Pyria's cheeks were now flushed. She thought for a moment, then answered her mother. "Yes, of course, I understand, mother." But deep down, she was lying to herself. Those words were just a cover for the fact that she didn't understand at all. She only knew how to live as she was taught, to handle everything mechanically. But this time, those problems included magic, spells, and formulas she had never learned before. So what should I do? At this thought, her frustration welled up, and she burst into tears. The tears flowed endlessly. Why? Why are you tormenting me like this?" At the same time, in the Class S meeting room, the students had all gathered. Our hero sat alone at the front table, covering his face and thinking, "I'm screwed. Of course I'd be transferred to a place full of weirdos like this. It's not like I was trying to befriend them anyway." Suddenly, whispers broke out. "Why is he here?" "No way. That's what I'm talking about. I just don't get it. You know, our families protested and asked why he's in Class S. And he just said Beckerian has what it takes to be in Class S. Seriously? That's so weird." Even though they were whispering, our hero heard their conversation. He felt isolated and thought, "Looks like I'm the outcast here." But it's understandable. They've worked hard since they were kids, so they must be devastated to find out someone like me is in the same class as them. A person's class changes based on their academic performance, so this is normal. And even this S class is no exception. It's possible for someone to be demoted to a lower class, or there might be students who get promoted from Class A to Class S later. Well, I'll find them to talk to later then. Our hero looked around. All familiar faces from the game. And yet, by some miracle, he had become their classmate. It made him think, all of this is truly magical. The characters from the game are standing right in front of me. In a few years, most of the students in this class will become famous throughout the continent, and 5 of them will likely betray the Magic Council. My Yuziong is one of them. It would be great if Flame could stop that from the beginning. Suddenly, Professor Lee walked in and said, "Hello, students. Please settle down quickly." Hearing this somewhat familiar voice, our hero turned to look at the podium. The powerful professor was speaking. "I am honored to meet you all. I'm sure some of you have seen me before, but I will introduce myself as usual. I am the professor of Class S, Lee Han-won." Hearing this, the students below started whispering again. One of them said, "Oh, so that's the famous Professor Lee Han-won." The one next to him replied, "The number of cultists he's hunted is almost in the 4 digits. That's insane. They even call him a 7th-tier magic warrior. He's really on another level." Seeing the students' amazed chatter, Professor Lee spoke up to quiet them down. "All right, everyone, settle down. It seems we have many talented students here this year, and even a special admissions student. As you know, this academy is where we nurture combat mages, also known as magic warriors. You will experience a rigorous educational environment for 3 years. I expect all of you to keep up with the curriculum. I want all of you to show me the best you can do during your time at this school. Now, does anyone have any questions?" At the teacher's question, the entire class remained silent. The teacher smiled and continued, "Good, then let's begin the lesson." Just then, from outside the door, the figure of Princess Piria entered. Seeing her with a bruised cheek, everyone was surprised. Our hero was no exception, thinking, Piria, who is always more rule-abiding than anyone else, is late? What happened to her? She approached the teacher, apologized, and said something. His face showed a look of fatigue and disappointment. Curious, our hero took out his color-tinted glasses to check. As soon as he put them on, an information panel appeared. Piria, a dole-pied villain, fire mage, likes red ginseng candy, sometimes blames herself, only drinks a Kalia-style espresso, has a cruel mother, fated to die. After reading, he thought to himself, not much has changed. Her fate is to die. But if Isul dies because of Flame, then Piria will die too. You could call it the unavoidable fate of a villain. I would save her if I could, but I'm not in a position to save anyone. With that thought, he felt a twinge of sadness and took off the glasses. After hearing her explanation for being late, the teacher said, "You should find a seat." On the other side, our hero was still sighing sadly, thinking, "I feel pretty bad, but I can only keep my distance." He just sat there, lost in his thoughts. Suddenly, Piria walked towards his seat. Her eyes, filled with resentment and sorrow, looked at him, and he still couldn't understand what was happening. Immediately after, Piria sat down right next to him. Our hero shivered, thinking in confusion, What is this? What is this feeling? Has everything been twisted from the very beginning?" After everyone had settled in, the teacher announced, "All right, before we begin our lesson, we will have an inheritance ceremony so that you all have a proper spell-casting tool. Class S and Class A will hold the ceremony together. I will provide the details later." Beck-Irian heard this and was a bit confused. An inheritance ceremony? Sounds like a lot of trouble. But then he smiled, a look of anticipation on his face for the day of the event. At Stella Academy, there are 2 major events. One is the Pact of the Familiar, and the other is the Inheritance Ceremony. For a prestigious academy like Stella, the Inheritance Ceremony holds a very special place. A short while later, the students of Class S and Class 8 gathered in a rather mystical place. Professor Lee spoke up. "Is everyone here? There are many magic wands here, from the lowest to the mid-tier. What you need to do is go to the magic wand you like and take it. The process of changing wands after you've chosen is very complicated, so I hope you choose carefully." Beck-Irian heard this and thought, even though he says that we're not the ones who choose the wands, something else is. In the world of Izar, magic wands only respond to those they acknowledge, creating a resonance effect. This also means you can't just use a high-end wand because you want to. With that thought, he also approached the magic wands floating in midair. He looked around, extremely hesitant, not knowing which one he should choose. He just stood there lost in thought. If it were before, I would have just picked an F-rank one to get it over with. But since I'm in Class S now, I can't just pick a random one and let them look down on me forever. Suddenly, a rather simple wand caught his eye. In this world, magic wands are divided into two main types: wands and staves. Wands are usually the choice of knights, who prioritize casting speed. In contrast, staves are favored by bishops, who focus on powerful attacks that require longer casting times. Suddenly, there were whispers behind him. "Hey, which one do you think he'll choose?" Another person said, "Since he's in Class S, he probably won't have any problem with resonance, right?" At that moment, our hero seemed to realize that he was the target of their gossip, but he just ignored it and thought, "You kid can say whatever you want, I couldn't care less." Suddenly, someone behind him called out, "Hey, Irian." Confused as to who was calling him, he turned around. Looking at the unfamiliar face, he asked, "What is it? And who are you?" The guy replied with a hint of arrogance, "Me? I'm Lex Byland." Beck Irian still couldn't remember who he was and thought, probably just a side character. This is the first time I've heard this name. Well, I might as well answer him and get it over with. He then replied nonchalantly, "Oh, really? I see." Lex Byland stood with his arms crossed and continued, "Which wand are you going to choose?" He replied bluntly, "I'll just pick a random one." Hearing this, the guy smirked mockingly. "You'd better choose a wand that suits your commoner status. Don't try to climb too high, or you'll fall hard, and then you'll just be a nuisance to Professor Lee." "Oh, please," our hero's face now said. "You think I'm scared of you?" He didn't even bother and turned to leave, not forgetting to add a sarcastic remark. "Oh, okay. You try not to cause any trouble either, okay?" Seeing his defiant attitude, the guy got even more pissed off, his face flushing red. Immediately after, he went crazy and yelled, "Damn it, you bastard! You want to fight? This is so annoying." Our hero had already wanted to ignore him, but this Lex guy still wanted to provoke him. He sighed in frustration and took out his color-tinted glasses from his pocket and put them on. At that moment, the kid's information appeared right before his eyes. Name, Lex Byland, son of Marquis Byland, a subordinate of Prince Jeremy. Bullying level, 3. After reading, he took off the glasses and put them away, thinking with some disappointment, "Seriously, that's all the info there is?" Then he looked up at the guy, sighed wearily, and thought, "Is there anything special about him at all?" Lex Byland then pointed toward the magic wand and said arrogantly, "Anyway, I'm going to choose that one, so you'd better watch closely." Following his finger, he saw that it was a magic staff, and not just any staff, it was an Edom Etermeri. It seemed to be the highest-ranked one here, a high-mid-tier staff. Normally, a high-mid-tier magic staff is used by professional mages. On the other hand, no matter how talented you are, a low-mid-tier staff is the limit for a student. And even professional mages rarely use a low-mid-tier magic staff. Other than the Edom Etermeri, there were no other high-mid-tier staves here. It was mainly here for show, as everyone knew that none of the students here could take it. At that moment, the teacher spoke up again, "Students, please stand in front of the magic wand you like." After hearing this, the students one by one moved in front of their chosen wands. It seemed that everyone had made their choice. Immediately after, blue lights started to glow all around. The people in the back exclaimed in admiration, "Ah, isn't the wand High One chose that had an Amikatine? That's a mid-tier wand." Prince Skelvin also got a mid-tier wand. Looking at the scene around him, Bekirian also commented, "Princess Pyria chose the Evita. That's also a mid-tier wand." How many people can choose a mid-tier wand? This year is insane. Lex Byland became even more frustrated, gritting his teeth in anger. Damn it. Just you wait, I can do it too. He continued. Just you wait, I can do it too. The moment he finished speaking, he made up his mind and walked straight towards the staff in front of him. He walked amidst the astonishment of everyone around him. Isn't that Lex Byland? Can he really resonate with a high mid-tier staff? Meanwhile, the main character of this story was still acting incredibly arrogant. He reached his hand towards a certain mid-tier staff. He smiled smugly, as if to say, I'll make you all open your eyes. Watch what a true S-class talent is like. He then gripped the staff tightly, and immediately, small sparks of electricity crackled around it. Right after that, there was a loud explosion. Boom, boom, boom. The powerful blast was so bright it blinded everyone nearby. This didn't surprise our hero too much. He squinted and thought. Just as I predicted, he failed. At that moment, he was thrown back by the force from the staff, landing flat on the ground, gritting his teeth in frustration. The students standing nearby who witnessed this cried out in alarm. Oh no, it looks like he's seriously injured. Someone call Professor, quick! A high mid-tier staff is impossible. What was that guy thinking? Our hero just sighed and thought. So, who's the one who climbed too high and fell hard now? Huh, little bro. He should have given up on this idea from the start because... Just then, the figure of another student approached the staff. He seemed quite confident, whistling as he walked. It turned out the owner of that staff had already been decided, and this confident person was none other than Ma Yuziang. He stared at the staff in front of him intently, then smiled smugly, seemingly very pleased with his decision. But his action surprised the surrounding students, who exclaimed, Whoa, is he going for the scepter? I don't think he can resonate with it. Ignoring the chatter around him, Ma Yuziang coldly reached out and touched it. He gripped it tightly, and immediately it emitted a blinding light that radiated outwards. But he remained standing, completely unaffected. The power was so immense that everyone around had to shield their eyes. Unsurprisingly, Ma Yuziang was able to resonate with it. Holding the staff, he smiled brightly, looking incredibly radiant. The surrounding students still couldn't believe their eyes and exclaimed, Unbelievable! No way! How can a first-year student get a high mid-tier scepter? Oh my god! Is this even possible? Our hero wasn't too surprised and sighed. I saw this coming. From now on, more and more people will know how talented he is. Suddenly, Ma Yuziang glanced in his direction. This made our hero quite confused, not understanding what he was looking at. Then Ma Yuziang smiled friendly, his eyes crinkling. Our hero felt a chill run down his spine, his hair standing on end. Is he crazy? What's he smiling about? But he suddenly remembered the plot of the game. Affleck also owned a high mid-tier staff called Terry Vaughn. But this is where their paths diverge. If Flame successfully obtains the Terry Vol, Yuziang will become interested in her because of her talent, opening up Ma Yuziang's route. But if she chooses another staff, Ma Yuziang will choose a completely different path. I have to use Flame to win over Ma Yuziang. With that thought, our hero found Flame. She was approaching a certain magic staff. She still seemed quite hesitant. At that moment, our hero also recognized it as the Terry Vaughn. He watched nervously, his eyes fixed on it. Flame was getting closer and closer to the Terry Vaughn staff. Staring at her back, our hero told himself, That's right, take it. Then my Yuziang will become curious about Flame, and we'll have a perfect happy ending. But ironically, as she got close to the Terry Vaughn, she suddenly turned and walked away. This shocked him so much he felt like he would vomit blood. What the hell? What the hell was that? Doesn't she like the Terry Vaughn? What's going on? Doesn't she know? Or does she not have enough information? The situation doesn't look good. Flame can resonate with any staff because she's the main character. But what if she chooses some weird staff? Then we'll lose another good option. This is not good. I have to do something. I have to push the Terry Vaughn towards Flame. With that thought, He focused on Flame's position and used his flash step skill to dash towards her. As quick as a flash, he was behind her. Suddenly, Flame felt someone standing right behind her. She turned around in confusion, thinking, "Holy crap, when did he get behind me?" Beck Irian raised his hand and smiled friendly. "Hey there, I was just curious which staff you were going to choose." Flame replied with a puzzled look. "Why do you want to know? What does it have to do with you?" Our hero replied awkwardly. "I just wanted to give you some advice, since you seem a bit confused." Hearing his lame excuse, Flame coldly replied, "That's none of your business. If you have nothing else, I'm leaving." With that, she turned her back and walked away. Seeing this, he was about to say something, but then he realized something was wrong. Shouldn't Flame be friendly to everyone? She's a sociable person, right? But why is she being so cold? But I can't give up like this. My whole life depends on it. With that thought, he mustered up his courage and called out, "Hey, wait. I really just want to help you." At this, Flame got even more annoyed. She replied, "You nosy woman, worry about yourself first. You haven't even chosen one for yourself, yet you're meddling in other people's business." But this didn't discourage our hero. He continued, "Hey, but I feel like there's a staff that's perfect for you." Hearing this, Flame yelled in anger, "Are you trying to lecture me? What the hell do you know about staves?" Faced with this attitude, our hero felt a bit scared and thought, "What the hell? Did I do something wrong? Or does she not care about a lowly side character like me?" He stammered, Well, actually, I've heard a lot about you. Don't you think you can get that staff?" Flame replied in confusion, "Terry Vole." Seeing that she had calmed down, our hero grinned and said, "That's right. That's the one." Suddenly, a sound made our hero's smile vanish. The sound grew louder, and a pressure radiated outwards. This scared the crap out of him, his eyes widening. Then suddenly, a magic staff flew into his hand from nowhere. He squinted and exclaimed, "Huh? What is this?" Then he examined the staff closely, and immediately his face turned pale. "Why is it in my hand? Flame was supposed to be the one to get it. Damn it." At this point, our hero was at a loss for words, not knowing how to explain. His face was a bit embarrassed. "Flame, it seems." She stood there, stunned for a moment. In this way, immediately after, she smiled so wide her eyes crinkled and exclaimed, "So?" He looked at her strange attitude and felt his skin crawl. He replied with a tremor in his voice, It's nothing." But at that moment, he was secretly worried about the future. "Well, that's it. I'm screwed. Now I can't even live in seclusion if I wanted to." And so, the inheritance ceremony ended, but its after effects seemed to linger. At that moment, on the school grounds, Flame was walking leisurely behind a group of students. By chance, she overheard the conversation of two young men in front of her. One said, "Hey, have you read the hot news? This year, 2 students got high-tier staves." The other, surprised, replied, "Really? So far, only 5 people have ever done that. And now there are 2 more." "Yeah, that's right. But it's weird. One of the 2 only used Flash Step in a magic demonstration test." "Oh, Flash Step is just a basic spell. How is that possible?" "My parents used to say Flash Step is a rare magic. This is really strange." Their conversation made Flame think. She herself didn't understand this. A short while later, in the study hall, Flame had also arrived nearby. The atmosphere here made her feel comfortable, and she exclaimed, "Finally, some peace and quiet. All day today, wherever I went, I heard whispers about that." The news of 2 students obtaining high-tier staves had spread everywhere. But I still don't understand who he is. Why was he able to get the Terry Vole staff? I read the original novel 3 times before I was transmigrated here. But this Beck Irian character never appeared. They said no one could get the Terry Vole, but he resonated with it so easily. But that's not right. He was deliberately showing off to me. That's more like it. But whatever, let's just drop it. Thinking about it now is useless. Suddenly, someone called her name, Flame. Are you going to study too? Hearing someone call her, she turned around, smiled brightly, and replied cheerfully, You kids are so weird. Do you think I'm a bookworm? The blonde girl continued, Not at all. You always say you have nothing to do, and then you go study. Flame replied shyly, Hey, that's not true. A girl standing by asked, But Flame, why do you call us kids? We're the same age, aren't we? Flame had to come up with some excuse and replied casually, It's probably just a habit of mine. Where I used to live, people used to call me an old lady. Hee hee. But the truth was, she knew very well that she was living in a novel. So how could she be a child? Another voice spoke up. So are you planning to study alone today? Looking back, she saw a cute girl with red hair. She thought to herself, Is this girl Jackie? Why is her fashion sense so similar to mine? Thinking this, she still replied cheerfully, Oh no, there's a meeting soon, so I'm just planning to attend that. Well, I'll be going first then. Okay, let's get drinks next time. With that, Flame quickly turned and left, not forgetting to wave goodbye. Bye-bye. Just a moment ago, she was cheerful and friendly, but now she had returned to her cold demeanor. At that moment, she thought to herself, It's really hard for an adult like me to go back to being a student. Lost in her random thoughts, she wasn't paying attention to what was in front of her. Immediately after, she bumped her head into someone with a loud thud. She held her head and winced. Ouch, that hurts. Suddenly, the person she bumped into spoke, Flame. Hearing the warm voice, she was surprised and looked up. Ma Yuziong, is that you? The young man asked with concern. Are you okay? What were you thinking about that you were walking in such a hurry? Flame replied, I'm fine. He looked at Flame for a moment and then asked again, You don't look so good. Is something wrong? Hearing these warm words of concern, Flame's eyes suddenly sparkled as she thought, Is he worried about me? She then replied shyly, Not at all. Hearing this, the young man changed the subject. It's good that you're okay. Are you going to study too? That's right. Are you going to the S-Class exclusive training room again? Flame replied, How can I skip daily training? You're too dedicated. Hey, you shouldn't say that. Oh, really? And so, a small argument like cats and dogs just happened. Immediately after, the young man said nothing more and looked at Flame affectionately. Then he smiled again. Then he waved his hand in front of her face. Well, I'll be going first. See you later. He just left like that, leaving Flame in a state of confusion. She was imagining some kind of romance story, but that didn't happen. Flame, slightly disappointed, turned and walked away, thinking, Ugh, what a bland guy. Suddenly, she was so shocked that her eyes widened. From behind a nearby door, her purple-haired friend was still peeking at her. Seeing this, Flame raised her hand to wave, but her friend said nothing and just left. Faced with this action, Flame was a bit confused, but then she thought it was already late. And this is not the time to chase after her. A short while later, she also arrived at the study hall. Standing in front of the room, she thought to herself, A special supplementary class, huh? As I remember from the original novel, Isul and Piria will participate in this meeting. I'm curious to see how the heroine and the villainess of this novel will face each other. Immediately after, she opened the door and walked in. As she had predicted, all the important characters had appeared. She slowly looked around. What caught her eye was the host, Kai from Class A. He seemed quite surprised by the presence of the members today. Flame quickly found a seat high up, so she could easily observe everything. As she slowly sat down, she thought, This is a supplementary meeting for students who want to move up. No wonder there are so many famous S-Class students here. At that moment, what caught Flame's eye was Ma Yuziong and Beck Irian. Seeing the two of them talking happily with each other, Flame was quite surprised. In this world, Ma Yuziong is actually interested in the nameless Beck Irian. Flame thought, this can't be just a coincidence. And the fact that Beck Irian couldn't solve any question except for those 3 hellishly difficult ones is also very illogical. Perhaps Beck-Irian knew from the beginning that if he solved those questions, he would definitely be placed in Class S. And if Beck-Irian really knew the future, then his actions at that time were truly terrifying. Meanwhile, Beck-Irian was sighing in frustration. I wish someone would just throw this guy away, so I don't have to see him. But my Yuziong was the opposite. He smiled brightly at Irian and asked, "Oh, Irian, why did you come here? With your skills, you don't even need to attend this kind of class. Or is there some reason you can't say?" Our hero forced a smile and replied, "Haha, there's no reason at all. I just felt like coming to check it out." But in reality, he was lying to himself. He was basically forced to attend this class because his grades were bad. He was fed up with the person in front of him. It was so confusing why he seemed so focused on him. At that moment, someone's voice spoke up. All right, everyone, settle down. That's enough chit-chat. Today, we'll be discussing the problems from the recent placement test. As you all know, this placement test was extremely difficult, so much so that even the upperclassmen were stumped and called them the 3 hell questions. And I will slowly explain them to you all. Although he said this, he was quite nervous inside. He didn't understand why the famous people were also here. His goal was just to boost his reputation by helping the stupid kids in this class. Suddenly, an idea popped into Kai's head. He looked towards Beck-Irian and thought, wait, maybe this is my chance. I've heard that Beck-Irian got the lowest score on the entrance placement test. So I just need to show him that I'm much better than him. With that thought, Kai confidently continued, "Please pay attention, everyone. I will now show you how to solve the first question." Then Kai explained as he wrote on the board. This question is actually a trick question. It's trying to lead everyone down the wrong path. First, we have to do this. At that moment, the entire group below was listening and diligently taking notes. Ma Yuziang also glanced over at Irian and saw him deep in thought. He then asked, "What do you think? Do you think his point of view is correct?" Irian, surprised by the question, looked up, seeing the person next to him smiling with anticipation for his answer. Faced with this strange attitude, our hero's face turned pale. What the hell is he talking about? He's asking me if I think that guy's point is correct? I don't even understand what's being taught up there. What are these 3 hell questions? But anyway, honesty is a good virtue. If so, then. With that thought, Irian replied, "Oh no, I don't know either." The moment he finished speaking, the students nearby, catching bits and pieces of the conversation, turned to each other and said, "What? It's Beck-Irian." He said Kai is wrong. It seemed like these two were intentionally saying this to slander Irian, as everyone knew he had the lowest entrance score. At that moment, Kai, who was diligently writing on the board, overheard those words and paused. He gritted his teeth in frustration. Suddenly, our hero noticed that something was wrong. He looked left and right in confusion, thinking, what the hell? Why is everyone staring at me? At the front, Kai had also stopped writing, broke a piece of chalk, and said, "That's right, I'm wrong." Our hero was completely stunned. What the hell is happening? Immediately after, Kai smirked triumphantly and continued. "So, Beck-Irian, why don't you come down here and help everyone solve this part?" Hearing this, his hair stood on end as he thought in horror. Nanny? What the hell is he talking about? He then saw my Yuziang's gaze and was a bit surprised. He was grinning with a confident look that said, "You can do it, come on." But at this point, he probably understood everything. It was this guy and the others who were intentionally playing this cat and mouse game. With that thought, he slowly walked down to the podium. As he walked, he thought, "Fine, if you want to humiliate me, you've made a mistake. I'll make you eat your words." At that moment, everyone's eyes were focused on him. The previous text seems to have an error. The user may have intended for this line to continue from the previous thought. I will assume the character's internal monologue continues. As soon as he reached the podium, he took something out from his pocket and read through the other guy's solution. It turned out to be his color-tinted glasses. He thought, 3 hell questions? Looks more like a play on words. The question was something like this. A mage cast a spell as follows. "O Mother Earth, please shed your tears." And from that, the dust becomes twice as thick as before. The question is, why is that? The answer to this question is also very simple. It's just that the dust is crying. They're just in a state of separation. Our hero irritably scratched his head, muttering a curse at whoever came up with this brain-twisting question. To him, it was a joke, but in this place, it was a huge problem for the others. But thinking about it, that Kai guy's solution was also bizarre. It was like dust to dust, completely off the mark. His ridiculous method, though completely wrong, magically led to the correct answer, probably thanks to his ancestors' blessings. If he encountered a similar question, he'd definitely be out immediately. And from now on, this stage is mine, you lowlifes. Thinking this, our hero turned to Kai and said bluntly, "I can't really show you how to solve this question, but I can tell you where you're wrong." Kai jumped, stuttering, "What?" Our hero calmly continued, "The problem is about the foundation of the earth, but what if it were water or wind? Do you think your method could solve those? If so, I'll use a different, easier-to-understand method. But if you do that, you'll need many different ways to solve the same type of question. Therefore, you were just lucky to get the right answer. This doesn't mean your answer is what the question creator intended." Kai was dumbfounded, his mouth agape. He wanted to argue, but could only choke out the words, it, and then had to swallow his pride. "You're right." Seeing Kai's dejected look, our hero felt a bit bad. "I think I was a bit too harsh," and brought him down. He then continued, "Anyway, the solution is like this." Kai listened while diligently taking notes. The entire group of students below also enthusiastically took notes. Witnessing this scene, Flame could only stare with wide-eyed surprise. Why is everyone suddenly so focused on writing down what he says? Isul and Piria should have jumped into the fight, right? But now they're both busy analyzing his solution. What is going on? What is happening? This is so strange. At that moment, the sun had set, painting the sky a shade of purple. Inside, Ma Yuziong waved goodbye to Irian. "Bye-bye. See you tomorrow." The young man flashed a bright smile and left. Irian awkwardly raised a hand in return. "Goodbye." After Ma Yuziong was out of sight, Irian buried his face in his hands, thinking despairingly, "I'm doomed. Sticking with this Ma Yuziong guy will get me killed one day. I don't want it tomorrow. I don't want to see him ever again in my life." With that thought, he slowly lowered his hands, looked at his own slender hands, and an idea flashed in his mind. It must be because of this phone. But now, even if I want to use it, I can't. This is so frustrating. But it's also because of it that my Yuziong noticed me. Damn it, why do I have to keep running into that guy? But it's strange. Before, besides Flame, no one used it. As he was walking leisurely, he suddenly saw Piria still standing nearby, looking a bit sad. He thought to himself, "What's wrong with her? She looks... But whatever, it's none of my business. It's too much trouble to care." He then walked past Piria. Suddenly, she spoke up, "Hey, Irian." He was still stunned, not sure if he had heard correctly, when she continued, "I have something to ask you." Our hero was visibly surprised, never expecting someone as perfect as her would have a question for him. He replied, "Piria, what is it?" She didn't beat around the bush and got straight to the point. "Why didn't you explain your answer earlier?" Hearing this, our hero froze for a few seconds, thinking, I did explain it. But honestly, I don't even know how to explain it anymore. If you ask a question with no answer, how am I supposed to explain it? This lady must have misunderstood something." He awkwardly scratched his head. "Well, I didn't really have to explain it." Piria cut him off. "I see. You don't want to reveal it, do you?" This statement made him even more confused. He thought to himself, "No, that's not it." She continued, "Then I will compensate you." Our hero was so shocked he almost fell over. "What are you talking about?" Piria declared clearly, "I said I will compensate you handsomely. So whatever is in your head, just explain it to me." Over here, he was shocked to his core, his mouth hanging open. Huh. A short while later, the two of them snuck into Professor Lee's office. After fumbling around for a bit, they finally found their test papers. He glanced at Piria's paper and said, "I really don't understand why you're paying me to explain 3 questions on the placement test." Piria replied, "I have my reasons. Just tell me." "Yes, milady." Our hero obediently complied. After looking at her paper, he asked, "But you only got those 3 questions wrong, while I got all the others wrong. You're asking me for help? Aren't you embarrassed?" Piria replied nonchalantly, "No. The only thing I'm ashamed of is that I still can't understand the answers to those questions. If you can answer this for me, I'm willing to do anything." Hearing this, our hero was stunned, thinking, "Huh? You're a model student, though." He then asked, "But why are you asking me?" "You're a princess. You must have plenty of friends to ask." She stammered, "That's actually, out of the 1,141 first-year students, only 3 answered those 3 hellishly difficult questions correctly, and you're one of them." Our hero's jaw nearly dropped. What? What did you say?" She looked a bit downcast. "Those questions had no answers. Yet my Yuziong, Flame, and you were all able to solve them. That's what I'm most ashamed of." At this point, our hero couldn't take it anymore, his hands trembling. No, wait a minute." Then he shot up and yelled, "These 3 questions were a trick? No one was supposed to be able to solve them." "Yes. Didn't you realize that when you were solving them?" Piria replied. Hearing this, he tried to swallow his anger, sat down heavily, his head spinning. "This is insane. Now I understand why I'm in Class S, and why Flame tried to stop me. I had no idea about the game's settings in this world. I didn't know about those trick questions, but Flame probably did. Because she read the entire novel, even if she didn't know the game's plot. But she definitely knows the settings in the story. Like those 3 trick questions. But because a side character who wasn't in the original novel appeared, Flame had to acknowledge the existence of this Beck Irian. Damn it. No wonder she's been acting so strange." Seeing his reaction, Piria asked with a puzzled look, "What's wrong with you?" Our hero replied nonchalantly, "Ah, it's nothing, don't worry. Don't forget that you promised to do me a favor if I explain the answers to you." Piria nodded. "Yes, of course." Our hero continued, "I only have one small request. Turn my staff into a magic sword. The blacksmiths in your kingdom can do that, right?" Hearing this, Piria's eyes widened in surprise. "But only low-level mercenaries use that kind of weapon. Why would a future mage like you?" Our hero quickly cut her off. "Ah, it's just my style. It's not like I'm going to tell her it's my weakness." He then looked at her with hopeful eyes. "So what do you think? Can you do it?" She thought for a moment and then confidently replied, "Of course. That's too easy for me. That's the perfect answer." Our hero was overjoyed, his cheeks flushing. "Awesome." With that thought, he slowly began to explain, "All right, I'll tell you how to solve this question first." He pointed at the test paper and said clearly, "The way to do it is to change your perspective." She heard this and was puzzled. Change my perspective? Our hero knew very well that Piria's weakness was that her magic was mechanical and she was stuck in that mindset. Piria only realizes this in her 2nd year after losing to Flame. I don't think I can help her realize it now, but hopefully I can point her in the right direction. So what I need to do now is, he continued, "Do you understand what a trick question is?" At this question, "I think I've heard of it." Our hero continued, "All right, let me give you an example. What's between knee and knee?" She immediately rested her chin on her hand, thought hard, and then replied, "Is it the inside of the knee?" Our hero said nonchalantly, "You're wrong. The answer is in." Piria still didn't understand and asked, "Huh? Why is that?" He then emphasized the question again. "I'm asking you what word is between the word knee and the word knee. You get it now, right?" Hearing this, she realized she had been tricked and was furious. Bickerson, seeing her about to explode, got a little scared and said, "Hey, come on now, don't get mad at me like that. Calm down and look at this question. It It also has its own formulas and tricks that you don't know about yet. So what I mean is, when faced with a problem, you need to solve it more creatively. But can you do this with just your own creativity? Hearing this, Piria's face fell. She felt ashamed and replied, "No, that's impossible." At this, our hero breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Of course." Although understanding various types of spells and their applications is very important, for a mage, the most important thing is their perspective on the world. Through your perspective, magic can change in unpredictable ways, even with the smallest changes. But on the other hand, you only think about what you've seen and learned in books. That's all impractical theory. Spells aren't just about memorizing and casting them. You might be better than me at analysis and evaluation, but you lack the most important thing for a mage, which is creativity. After Bickerson's long lecture, Piria also became contemplative, reflecting on every word he said. So much so that she couldn't deny it, nor could she control her emotions, her hands trembling uncontrollably. She was sinking into despair. Our hero, seeing her serious expression, broke out in a sweat. He rubbed his head awkwardly. "Well, you understand what I just said, right?" Even though it might sound a bit complex and abstract, Piria confidently replied, "Of course I understand." Our hero forced a smile, thinking to himself, "Wow, even I don't understand what the hell I just said." He said seriously, "I'm glad you could understand what I just said. So shall we begin? I'll ask you a riddle. What did the man say to the horse when he put it to bed?" Hearing this, she was a bit confused, then rested her chin on her hand and thought. What did the man say to the horse when he put it to bed? Unable to figure out, she replied sadly, "I don't know." Our hero explained, "The answer is very simple. It's time for bed." And then he continued to fire off a series of other questions. Why do they work harder? I don't know either. Because they're always lying down when they work. So what happens when rock, paper, and scissors have a race? I don't know either. My answer is that the rock will roll, while the scissors and paper won't move. Their shapes don't allow them to move. At this point, he turned to look at Piria and didn't dare to say another word. At that moment, her whole body was trembling. It seemed she was tormenting herself, so angry that she frowned and gritted her teeth, looking very uncomfortable. Seeing her attitude, our hero also got a little scared and thought, "Oh my God, she looks like she's about to transform." Our hero mustered up the courage to ask one more question. "So, what will the clouds say to the sea? What will the clouds say to the sea when it rains?" She focused intently. She kept encouraging herself. Come on, I can do this. Calm down." After a moment of internal struggle, she stammered, "I'm falling for you." At this answer, our hero exclaimed in surprise, "Oh, you got it right." Finally, she got a question right and was acknowledged. Her heart filled with indescribable joy, which was clearly visible on her face. Pirith smiled broadly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. And it was this reaction from her that surprised him greatly. This was the first time he had seen her smile, whether in the game or in real life. Our hero also shared her joy and said proudly, "As expected of a princess, your creativity is on a whole different level." Feeling a bit overly praised, she blushed and tried to remain calm, saying, "All right, let's move on. Give me the next question." Our hero grinned, "Good, that's more like it. So, my next question is..." And so, the two of them chatted happily until it was dark. Outside on the school grounds, a few groups of students were still chatting and laughing, not yet home. At that moment, our hero was also walking home alone. He looked quite tired, with dark circles under his eyes. He sighed, thinking with frustration, what a waste. I spent 3 hours just asking silly riddles with Piria, and I don't even expect her to remember what I said. Speaking of Piria, in the future, she will definitely be a formidable witch with a brilliant mind, but her weakness is her rigid thinking. And if I want to use that weakness to mock her, even though she's a villain, I feel incredibly guilty. But I need to quickly forge the Terry Vole into a magic sword, so I have to try harder. Seriously, unlike my old self, I could do everything on my own. Well, thinking too much gives me a headache. I should go find the books I need for my upcoming classes. A short while later, he arrived at a certain place. He looked around, searching for something, and mumbled to himself. No, it should be around here, right? I didn't remember wrong, did I? Then his eyes suddenly lit up, and he whispered, "There it is. That's it." In front of him was an old, dilapidated house. Inside, dust and cobwebs were everywhere. Stepping inside and seeing the desolate scene, he thought, "Wow, this place looks so run down." Looking at the shop owner, he suddenly remembered, "But I know one thing. This bookstore owner has a weird habit of pretending to sleep while secretly watching his customers. If I remember correctly, in this nameless bookstore, there's a notebook belonging to Ma Ella. He was a top student at Stella Academy 10 years ago. If it were my old self, I could just view it with a single click. But in this world, I need books to learn. Furthermore, what books I study also affects my leveling up. At first, I bought books from famous shops, but then I discovered that all the good books are hidden in these nameless stores." With that thought, he went deeper into the store and started searching. As he walked, he thought excitedly, taking a magic engineering class with Ma Ella's notes in hand. What could be more OP? I'll definitely get a perfect score. Well, that's just a thought. In reality, just wearing my color-tinted glasses should be enough to get a good grade. But who knows? Maybe I'll find some secret formula? Suddenly, something caught his eye. A green book was tucked away in the corner of the shelf. He exclaimed, "This is what I was looking for." Just as he reached out to grab it, another hand reached for it at the same time. And so, the two of them just stared at each other. He exclaimed in surprise, "Isul." She replied in confusion, "Huh? How do you know me?" "Of course, you're so famous," our hero replied. At that moment, she also started to recognize him and said, "Ah, I remember now. You were also in the supplementary group. Your name is Irian, right?" Our hero was a little disappointed, thinking, "Oh my God, you don't remember we met before entering the academy?" She continued, "Ah, I really like that debate. It's just a shame you couldn't explain the whole answer." Our hero then remembered that Isul was also one of the people who couldn't solve those questions. Then she said, "Anyway, it was nice meeting you." And then she turned and walked away. Faced with her attitude, he was a bit surprised. But the important thing now was that the book hadn't been taken by anyone yet. He quickly took the book and then looked towards Isul, thinking, "Why is she here?" At that moment, she was still choosing books. But it seemed she was very hesitant to buy them, which was evident as she carefully checked the price of each book. After checking the prices, she sighed in frustration and put the books back. This action of hers was noticed by Bicker's son. He could guess why she was here. This bookstore sells only old books, so the customers here are usually poor students like me. Someone from a fallen noble family like Isul, who has lost everything, can only come here. Her father was probably killed by the Dread Dragon cultists. He suddenly felt she was so pitiful, so sad. A princess has to buy old books, and even has to scrutinize the prices because she can't afford them. Furthermore, Isul also has a tragic ending in the original novel. She dies even before Flame, who became the main character in this world. You could say Isul is the unluckiest character in the game. With that thought, he had also chosen a few books he liked. They looked quite thick and heavy. He placed the books in front of the shopkeeper and said, "I'd like to pay for these, please." At the same time, Isul also came to the counter. Seeing the pile of books he had chosen, Isul could only stand and watch with envy. But she didn't seem to expect him to buy so many books. The shopkeeper was equally surprised. "All of these? All right." Our hero just nodded slightly and then glanced towards Isul. On the other side, she looked a bit sad. He suddenly asked, "What's wrong?" She replied nonchalantly, "It seems you like, You chose all the good books. Our hero was a bit confused, thinking, huh? Are you trying to insult me? He then replied, no, which one? Isul continued, all of them. But why are you reading about advanced sealing theory? Sealing theory is an ancient art that requires artifacts. So nowadays, with the advancement of alchemists and magic engineers, that skill is rarely used. He then replied, oh, this book? You're right, it's not very useful. Hearing this, she thought he must be crazy to choose it. Then she said coldly, so you knew that? He said calmly, of course. That's why I took it. Hearing this, she was so surprised her jaw dropped. Huh? What? Our hero held the pile of books and smiled slyly. Because everyone thinks like you, so it's easier to get a high grade in this class. Well, I'll be going now. Bye-bye. As he walked away, he thought smugly. Just as Isul said, not many people want to take the sealing theory class. But that's precisely why it will take me less time and be easier to get a high grade than in other classes. With these books, this semester will be an easy game. And so he left, leaving Isul standing there in a daze. She was confused, and although she wanted to ask more, her pride was too great to let her speak. Scene changed to the next day at Stella Academy. At that moment, Isul was nervously walking down the hallway. This was the first class of the Void Theory. It was also her first class after enrolling. She thought to herself, well, this subject is easy to get points in, so it probably won't be too bad. Then, she walked into the classroom. At that moment, quite a few students were already present. Just as she found an empty seat, she accidentally overheard the conversation of the friends next to her. Hey, are you taking Void Theory too? Yeah, but I think I'm screwed. I signed up because I heard this class was easy. But it seems the rumor spread, and all the pro players are in this class now. We're so game over. Isul heard this and could only sigh. Well, I can't help it, but I'll try my best in the other classes. A short while later, the class ended. Everyone started packing up to leave, all looking tired and complaining, my butt is so sore from sitting. I'm so hungry, what should we eat for lunch? Let's check the cafeteria and decide. Isul walked alone behind them. She sighed, thinking sadly, oh no, what do I do now? With so many people in my registered class, it'll be hard to get a scholarship. At that moment, her stomach also rumbled. Holding her wallet, she hesitated. Maybe I should just go eat first. Let's see, I only have 60 meal tickets left for this semester, so I'll just have bread today. Suddenly, Isul's eyes lit up in surprise as she saw something. It turned out that on her way to the cafeteria, she happened to pass by a room. She recognized a familiar person, Bickerson, also sitting there. At first, she wondered what he was doing there. But when she saw the professor lecturing, she suddenly realized this was the class he had registered for. But strangely, this class had very few students, and all of them were poor performers. This professor must be on the verge of unemployment. But then she suddenly realized that if she also registered for this class, she could get a high grade without spending much time. She could also save her energy to study other subjects to earn a scholarship. But how did this Beck-Irian guy know in advance that this subject was easy? Oh my God, did he actually plan out which subjects to take for an easy win? No, it can't be. What the hell am I thinking? It must be just a coincidence. With that thought, she also left. Scene changed to the next morning. The sun was high in the sky. In a corner of the classroom, the students were still listening intently as the teacher said, I'm sure you all know what the root of magic is. The creator mage, Becky, spread magic throughout the world. Humans and other races learned to use magic. And the professor lecturing was Professor Lilin, a specialist in moon god research. He continued, that mage taught the elves natural magic, taught the dwarves material magic, and taught humans elemental magic. After that, he ascended to heaven. Blah, blah, blah. And then followed a very abstract and confusing lecture. Our hero listened as if he were listening to a duck listen to thunder, thinking with frustration, oh my God, at this rate, I'll be kicked out in 3 years. I could have skipped all this knowledge with just one button in the game. But this class is also quite important. Who knows? It might tell me what the true ending is. But well, it's all just my speculation. Suddenly, he realized that the person sitting next to him was a bit familiar. Turning his head, he thought in surprise, is Isul still in this class? I don't remember any main character registering for this class, but what does it have to do with me? At that moment, the professor was still enthusiastically lecturing. Humanity's curiosity did not stop at elemental magic. Mages traveled the world, secretly learning the magic of other races. Even so, they were not satisfied, but they couldn't learn anything more. The creator mage left behind 12 moon gods and disappeared without a trace. Does anyone know about the 12 moon gods? A clear voice spoke up. It is said that they are guardian deities who protect the balance of power on the continent. And it was none other than Isul speaking. She added, I also heard that they were scattered across the continent and carried that mission for 1,000 years. The teacher was quite surprised by her answer and continued, oh yes, they have a special power to protect the continent. For example, the moon god that represents summer, the sixth moon, is summer red. It carries a blazing red flame, and it is said that flame will never be extinguished. If you go to the bottom of the Alamanca Sea, you will still see the red flame. Anyone curious can go take a look. Our hero thought he had misheard and shivered. Damn, is the teacher joking? If a living creature enters the territory of the Sea King Alamanca, they will be wiped out instantly. At the podium, the teacher continued enthusiastically. This is Blevian, a giant whirlpool in the middle of the ocean that was frozen by the 12th moon, winter blue. Therefore, each moon god has its own power, but a miracle will happen if they combine. A student below asked, Teacher, what is that miracle? The teacher suddenly lowered his voice and replied, no one knows about that. They have been sleeping for 1,000 years. At this, our hero also felt the teacher was right. At least, I met a few moon gods while playing the game, but I only met 5 of them in limited time events. And this is after I've gathered information from other players. No gamer has met more moon gods than me. If I'm right, then the 12 moon gods have something to do with the true ending. Because no one has found the true ending in the last 10 years, the answer must lie in content that no one knows about. I was only able to meet 5 moons after risking my life many times. But if I want to witness the true ending, I have no choice but to start over from the beginning. At the same time, in another outdoor classroom, a massive flame was hurtling towards a dummy. A graceful woman in a red dress stood in the middle and said, Power is not everything. No matter how powerful an attack is, if it doesn't hit the enemy, it's useless. And this woman was Professor Hong Jiao, who taught the fire class. The female professor was walking around, observing the students practice. Suddenly, she sensed that something was about to happen. Immediately after, a massive stream of firepower shot towards the dummy. And then boom, 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 a huge explosion occurred. The professor looked at this source of power with a rather satisfied expression. But then, her eyes suddenly widened in utter amazement. Yet, after the explosion, as the smoke and dust gradually cleared, the dummy was not only not burned to a crisp, but was still completely intact. The professor looked at this scene with some disappointment and exclaimed, That was terrible, Piria. Hearing this, the girl trembled uncontrollably. Piria sadly sat down on a bench to rest. Her eyes were heavy with disappointment, thinking, I've let Mother down again. Mother must be very disappointed. Suddenly, someone called out, Princess. Looking up, she saw a friend with red hair and 2 braids, looking quite cute. She smiled brightly and asked, Are you okay? Then she slowly sat down next to Piria. She continued, Don't be sad anymore. You looked amazing, Your Highness. Piria just replied nonchalantly, What do you mean? You used the same magic as me, but it was much stronger. What's the use if I can't even aim properly? But your magic is really amazing. It's so cool. To be honest, I've known about you since I was a child. Hearing this, Piria also realized that this girl was also a fire mage like her. I think her name is Azoang. I seem to have heard it somewhere before. It's rumored that a genius fire mage has appeared. But even so, it's nothing compared to my magic. With that thought, Piria exclaimed, "It was amazing how accurate you were." The girl replied shyly, "But if you practice more, how can I even compare?" Piria shot up and said, "That's only for the weak. But anyway, talking to you makes me feel much better. Goodbye." With that, Piria also left, leaving the girl with the two braids sitting there, stunned. Scene changed to a certain castle, looking quite neat and tidy. Princess Piria was also here, but she looked quite tired. At that moment, a voice spoke up, "Your Highness." A strong, stern woman appeared from behind. She continued, "Welcome back." And she was Piria's personal guard, named Your Eterin. "Your Highness, some warm tea and sweets have been prepared." Piria replied, "Thank you." Tranche continued, "Regarding the task of modifying the appearance of the magic staff that you assigned me earlier, because that staff is very good, they said they can create a high-level magic sword." Piria listened while eating a cake, a bit skeptical. "Is that so?" Terry continued. "However, there are some questions." Piria was a little surprised. "Questions?" Terran stammered. "It's like, I heard a rumor that it continuously drains mana from its owner." Hearing this, Piria was shocked, stood up abruptly, turned around, and exclaimed in alarm, "What? Isn't that a dark artifact?" Terran suddenly lowered her voice. "Not exactly. It resonates with the energy of nature." Then Piria was extremely confused and muttered, "Impossible. Something that drains its owner's mana can resonate with the power of nature? But then why is that staff only mid-tier?" Terran replied, "This is exactly why it's only at that level. What do you think about this? Its original ability is to greatly enhance the user's mana and make it stronger or even upgrade it to a higher tier. But perhaps because it only absorbs and doesn't release, it was downgraded to a common tier." Hearing this, Piria couldn't remain calm anymore, jumping up and shouting, "What? High tier? How can a student even use that?" Even Terran herself was quite surprised by this. On the other side, Piria was still confused, not knowing how to explain it. She held her head and continued, "I knew it didn't resonate with everyone from the start, but I didn't think anyone would use it even if they got it. Unless they have a massive amount of mana, or none at all. I don't understand this. I'm sure any normal person would know that." Speaking for a long time made her throat feel dry. She took a sip of hot tea to warm her voice and added, "But anyway, he is definitely a special person." Scene changed to a few days after the new semester began. In a certain classroom, a teacher was enthusiastically lecturing the students. Attack magic requires more understanding than any other type of magic. And our hero was also sitting attentively in this classroom. This ball professor was the mana guidance professor named Colin. He continued, "That's why the mana guidance class is mandatory. From now on, in your duels, you will learn to guide with a focus on projection and aiming." And in this class, Isul was also participating, seemingly very focused. Meanwhile, at the podium, the professor was still enthusiastically lecturing. Projection means shooting magic from the caster's body, while aiming means using magic on a stationary target. Then we will discuss the trajectory formula as follows. From a distance of 760 m to the north, Chosu is moving at a speed of 1.2.6 m/s to the south. So what is the appropriate trajectory and predicted distance that Longi needs to use water-based magic? The teacher said this, and the whole class suddenly fell silent. Below, two student figures were whispering, breaking the solemn atmosphere of the classroom. A voice, full of curiosity, asked, "Among the attributes, what if it's water?" The friend sitting next to them seemed to want to intervene, quickly adding, "If you're not a water attribute expert, then it's best not to answer this question. But isn't the teacher making things difficult for us? Drowsiness started to set in, causing our hero to yawn. He thought to himself, this is so boring. Why is this taking even longer than a Korean class? Suddenly, the professor with the famous bald head spoke up, his voice seeming to shatter the stability that had enveloped the room. Student Beck-Irian, please stand up and answer this question. With a bored face, our hero replied listlessly, yes, sir, but in his heart, he was screaming, damn it, me again? After a struggle with the problem, Sung finally found the solution. He confidently turned around and announced clearly, sir, I've solved it. Faced with Sung's presentation, the teacher couldn't hide his surprise and exclaimed, excellent. You were able to solve it so easily. Is your original attribute water? He quickly waved his hand and said humbly, no, sir. Oh, that's great. Let's move on to the next question. It was these actions of his that made Isul see him in a completely different light. Shortly after, the class ended, and everyone started packing up their books, preparing to leave. A clear voice spoke up from behind, excuse me. By reflex, he turned around and replied, yes? Are you talking to me? In front of him now was Isul. She continued, yes, I have a question for you. A thought suddenly flashed through Isul's mind. She had been wondering something about Beck-Irian while observing him. It wasn't about his ranking, but that he was very intelligent, even compared to the top scholars. He was able to solve that professor's problem so quickly and accurately. That was something truly unbelievable. The level of that question was at least at the university level, and it shouldn't be solvable by anyone less than a professor. Even if Stella is a place where geniuses gather, what is Beck-Irian's identity? At first, I didn't think so, but now I'm sure. He definitely has a scientific course registration strategy. At this point, Isul asked, I want to ask what your next course is. Faced with this unexpected question, Irian was surprised. He tried to maintain a calm expression. He replied, why do you ask? You don't like me, do you? Isul looked a bit annoyed. What are you talking about? Do you think I'm a pervert? That's so creepy. Irian's face turned purple with anger. I'm the one who finds it creepy, isn't that right? But immediately after, he realized, I'm an adult. What the hell am I saying? He then scratched his head awkwardly and asked again, but why are you asking? At this, Isul answered seriously, I've been researching the classes you're taking. It seems they're all classes where you can easily get high grades. I won't beat around the bush and will ask you directly, where did you learn that strategy? Because this is very important to me. Hearing this, our hero thought to himself, I was just wondering what she was going to ask, and now I understand. He immediately waved his hands and laughed. Ha, what do you mean? Those classes? It must be just a coincidence. If that's all, then I'll be going. With that, he turned and left. Faced with his rather indifferent attitude, Isul couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, what? Seeing his back recede into the distance, she couldn't help but call out, wait. But he was no longer concerned at that moment. The girl had to muster all her courage, run after him, and grab him. Please wait. Only then did our hero stop. She panted. She said, please, wait a moment. Irian replied, what is it? Why are you following me? Go learn that stuff from someone else. There are plenty of smart people here. Or just copy me. You said you've already done your research. Hearing this, Isul stammered an explanation, but anyone who takes the Moon God class gets an A+, so it doesn't really matter. But if I register for the same class as you, it could negatively affect your grade. At this, her eyes suddenly filled with sadness, a sense of guilt creeping into her heart. If he doesn't get a scholarship, it would be a disadvantage for him. But even in this situation, he was still worried about someone else's grade. Our hero looked at her pitiful expression and thought, although she's a bit annoying, the female lead is still the female lead. Suddenly, she put on an innocent, adorable look. But anyway, can you suggest a class for me? One that's easy to get a high grade in? Please. You there, our hero replied bluntly. Do you think those eyes can persuade me? The girl put her hands on her cheeks and acted cute. Oh, that's strange. Usually, when I look at my own face, all my worries disappear. This overly confident expression made our hero just want to... He replied nonchalantly, "Are you serious?" Isul's face turned bright red, and she giggled. "Ha, I'm just kidding. I knew you would react like that. That's why I prepared something interesting to compensate you." Our hero was startled. Compensate? He was shocked to his core, thinking, damn it, why do these kids love to compensate so much? Do they just open their mouths and demand compensation? Suddenly, Isul said again, "Do you know about the seventh magic tower?" Hearing this, our hero jumped. "Yes, I know." Isul added, "Really? Not many people know, you know, because it's a ruined tower that has disappeared. And there are many barriers preventing people from getting close to where the tower once stood, but there..." As she was enthusiastically telling her story, she suddenly paused when she saw Yuan Sung's strange expression. She asked worriedly, "Wait, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?" At that moment, Irian's head was spinning. "I'm going crazy. This is extremely important information." Because of this, Flame can increase her influence over the male lead. Furthermore, Flame knows about this in the original story, and Isul also knows this. And Isul only tells this information to the male lead, not a side character like me. With that thought, he didn't want to hear anymore and waved his hand. "That sounds like a scary story. I don't want to hear it. It's not interesting at all." Then he just walked away. Isul was bewildered and quickly explained, "It's not that scary. Are you afraid of ghosts at this age?" Irian reluctantly replied, all right, I'll tell you." The girl put on an act again. "Wow, you just pretended you weren't going to tell me. Why did you change your mind so quickly?" "Because I feel like it," Yuan Sung replied curtly. At that moment, he smiled again. "The fact that Isul wants to give me something is enough." With that thought, he spoke up. "Anyway, this isn't related to grades, but it's something extremely useful for you. You should register for the Journey of Meditation and the Void as your culture class." Isul was stunned. Meditation? Register for that as a culture class? Moon God and meditation are prioritized. You like to cultivate? "Not really," our hero replied, but he himself didn't know how to explain it properly. He quickly made up a reason. My master was also a bishop like you, and through meditation, one can improve their magic level." Isul's eyes widened in surprise. "Just with meditation, based on 10 years of all-night gaming experience." He explained slowly. "In fact, this has not yet been discovered, but for bishops who wield large-scale destructive magic, meditation is extremely important. To cast accurately, based on formulas and equations, but above all, the mind, which controls magic power. I haven't told anyone this either, but you're an exception because you're quite cute." The girl was confused, not knowing whether to believe him or not. "You just called me ugly a minute ago." But it seemed this compliment hit the right spot for the girls, and she smiled brightly. "Anyway, thank you. Even though it's not to help me improve my grades, I'll register for it." Irian replied, "That's up to you. You can do whatever you want." Having achieved her goal, the girl happily left. Watching her back, Yoon Sung couldn't help but feel a little worried. He didn't even know if what he had just done was right, and just sighed. "I've told her everything. It makes me a little scared about how the future will change. But if I just leave her like that, Isul will face another tragedy in this world. If meditation can help her, then that would be a good thing." With that thought, an idea suddenly popped into his head. "I'm a mage too, you know, but why haven't I thought about training until now?" Beck Irian in the game trains very strictly, awakening his physique, delaying his magic power, and developing rapidly. If this were a game, I could get experience by pressing a button, but now I can only do it directly. It seems a bit late. There are no farming segments or hunting quests, so I can't get any more experience. But anyway, I have to thank Isul. A short while later, Beck Irian had returned to the dormitory. At Stella, all students live in the dormitories. This system was a side feature in the game, allowing players to freely decorate their rooms. But for Bekirian, this was his only home, as his village had been burned down. The dormitory was also divided by rank. All the rooms were the same size, but the number of people in each room depended on their rank. And obviously, the S-class students always occupied the highest floors. Our hero was alone in his room at that moment, feeling a bit lonely, but then he thought, finally, I can make use of it. He took a deep breath. Well then, it's time to begin. Yeon-sung sat in meditation, concentrating deeply to train. Stats aren't the most important thing. Since this is reality, I have to get used to using this body. In the game, Bekirian was a genius who could control sword aura. By using the endless circulation of mana in and out of his body. No one paid attention to him, so no one knew. But Bekirian was a sword genius who had reached the pinnacle of swordsmanship. I have to walk that path again. My breath is what controls the flow of mana in my body. If I can slowly increase the amount of mana I take in with each breath, I'll be able to gather enough mana in a single breath. Skills don't just increase by collecting EXP. You have to continuously use a skill to level it up, which also means you have to train. And so, he diligently cultivated throughout the long night. The clock struck 4 a.m., and a new day began. Inside the room, Yoo-Hoon-sung was still immersed in his cultivation, his entire body glowing with a golden aura. Suddenly, he snapped his eyes open, then raised his hands, feeling the refreshing flow of ki in his body. He was amazed. This must be the feeling Bekirian experienced. As someone who has accepted having mana leak syndrome since childhood, although it's faint, I can still feel it. At the same time, the system displayed a notification. Mana leak syndrome skill has leveled up. Flash step skill has leveled up. Our hero looked at the status screen, filled with satisfaction. Excellent. I've taken another step closer to my goal. I will find the true ending at all costs. The scene suddenly changed to a certain place, with fresh air and a vast green meadow stretching to the horizon. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appeared. It turned out this was a dreamy space at Stella Academy, and Flame was immersing herself in the atmosphere here. She thought, the grass and the gentle breeze are all artificial, but the feeling here is so real, so pleasant. To make it clearer, the Stella Dormitory is actually a pocket dimension created within the school grounds. This allows people to freely change the space and its characteristics. All sports events and other activities, dungeons, teleportation gates, and monster training all take place here for that reason. Back to reality, the students had all gathered. Folim stood at the back, scanning the crowd. She realized there were a total of 141 people. 50 people from classes A1 and A2. The remaining 40 belonged to Class S. If it's like the novel, then there are 39 people from Class S. I thought with me it would be 40, but I never expected there would be one more person. That's right. Where did Bekirian come from? In the novel, in the first year, there were only 1,140 people, and with me, it's 1,141. In other words, Bekirian was also in the original novel. But anyway, I'll figure things out slowly. It's okay, I can do this. I'm the only person in this world who knows about this novel. The class will start soon. Suddenly, the group of students in front of Flame started to chatter excitedly. One person spoke up. Prince Jeremy, have you registered for your classes yet? The blonde young man in the middle was probably the person they were talking about. He looked very pleased. Of course. We also registered for the soft magic research class because we heard you were taking it too. He smiled brightly. Really? Then let's help each other out. As for Flame, she looked at his retreating figure and thought to herself, that's Prince Jeremy. In the novel, he falls in love with Flame and Isul, but is rejected by her. From then on, he becomes a different person and eventually becomes a villain. Although he seems gentle, all his actions are calculated. I should observe him carefully so I don't get involved with him. Suddenly, Prince Jeremy also saw Flame. He acted friendly. He raised his hand in a wave and smiled brightly. Flame also raised her hand in return, thinking to herself, but he is really handsome. Now I understand why he has so many people fawning over him. But I have to admit, his clique is full of the most famous people in school. With that thought, she turned away, determined to gather these people. Because the freedom of this world would be her reality, she had to prepare for the future. But this action seemed to have caught the prince's attention. He chuckled to himself. Is that Flame? Just then, the teacher's voice rang out. Everyone, attention. We will begin basic training before starting today's lesson. I need to know your abilities to teach you properly. I will be teaching you directly. If you don't like it, don't say it out loud. As you may know, we professors have the authority to deduct or add to your points. So you must remember that you will be expelled if you do not meet the required score. And now I will explain the training. We will practice with a dungeon. I will use situations from real dungeons, as well as traps and monsters, to test all of you. You will get 4 points for defeating a level 1 monster, 8 points for defeating a level 2 monster, 20 points for getting this point stick. The top 5 students will receive a small reward and shopping privileges. Students with no points will have their points deducted. If you're afraid of failing or going alone, you can form a group. But remember, the points will be divided equally among the group members. If you can eliminate a student, you will take their points. With that, the teacher vanished, leaving only his voice echoing. That's all. Good luck. Immediately after, the ground shook violently. The students screamed in panic. What is this? What's happening? The ground is moving. Suddenly, the ground split open and a giant tree slowly rose up. Flame was also amazed, her jaw dropping. A giant tree appeared, and it seemed like everything around them was changing. Flame guessed that this was the Jack and the Beanstalk map. The scenery became overgrown and dense with trees. The students began to choose their own paths. Some preferred to go alone, while others chose to go in groups. In the distance, the lonely figure of Flame walked on. Holding her magic staff, she thought to herself, all right then, I'm ready to join this game. Suddenly, a voice called from behind, Flame. Turning around, she saw her red-haired friend, who continued, Are you planning to go alone during the practice? Flame replied, Ezekiel. She thought to herself, although forming a team in a real dungeon has many advantages, going alone is better if you want to get more points. With that thought, she said coldly, I'm sorry, but this time I want to test my own strength, so I'm planning to go alone. Hearing this, the red-haired girl chuckled. Yeah, I know. You'd have to share points with your teammates, so you have no choice. Flame replied, Yeah, that's right. But in her mind, she was wondering, am I overthinking this, or is she mocking me? Well, let's just drop it. Flame said goodbye and left. Let's go together next time. The other girl said nothing more and turned to leave. Watching her back, Flame felt a little annoyed. Am I imagining things? Why do I get the feeling she's copying me? But let's get back to the main point. Things will probably be different later. 1 hour after the dungeon opened, in a certain corner, a green light shone. It seemed that Flame had just been through a battle. She was quite tired now. So tired. When will this training session end? Suddenly, she sensed something unusual. Immediately after, a giant vine shot towards her. As quick as a flash, she raised her magic staff to block. From the staff, a stream of blue power shot out, hitting the vine directly. A moment later, the vine was defeated and gradually shrank. At that moment, she looked around and thought, not only monsters but even plants can attack. As expected of Stella, even training can't be taken lightly. So far, I've only got 18 points. It's not too bad, but the gap can be closed with just 1 point stick. I have to keep moving. And so, she went deeper into the dungeon. Suddenly, she was so shocked that her eyes widened. In the distance, a blurry figure. But the bright sunlight made it hard for her to see clearly. She was confused. Is it a monster? No, it's a person. But how can a student hide themselves to this extent? But whatever, I'm also using natural camouflage to hide. With Flame's special abilities of control, defense, destruction, and healing, it seems that ambushing my opponent now isn't a bad choice. And so, she gently and stealthily approached the figure. As she got closer, she realized it was Beck Irian. So he's going alone? I remember other students wanted to team up with him. So he refused them all? How strange. I really can't understand what he's thinking. But what surprised her even more was the point stick in his hand. Suddenly, a reckless idea popped into her head, and this is the perfect opportunity to test him. At that moment, Yuan Sung was still clueless. He just walked forward. On the other side, Flame was using her magic staff to create a large ball of light. She believed that at a distance of about 15 meters, he wouldn't be able to defend himself. Immediately after, a strange magic circle appeared, and her entire body radiated a fierce orange power. She looked straight at Beck Irian and shouted, "Light bullet!" With that, a bolt of lightning shot forward. Just as it was about to hit Irian, he realized someone was ambushing him. He immediately used Flash Step to move to another location. After the dust settled, Flame stood frozen, not understanding what had just happened. Where did he go? Where did Beck Irian disappear to? She was so angry her hands trembled. Damn it! How could he dodge a level 2 spell at that distance? Damn it, this is insane. Meanwhile, Beck Irian on the other side was continuously using Flash Step to circle around behind his attacker. At that moment, he finally dared to breathe a sigh of relief. Damn it, does she want to kill me or something? Suddenly shooting a light bullet. Thank God the level of my mana leak syndrome has increased, otherwise I'd be in big trouble. His Flash Step had increased to level 1, with a maximum distance of 12 meters. I still have 2 more uses of Flash Step, so if I use the terrain, I can deal with her. But avoiding her is still the best option. With that thought, he continuously used Flash Step to get away from Flame. He glanced back and thought, this distance should be enough. My goal is 5th place, so I don't need to take too many risks. The reward for 5th place is the Ezolic, which can significantly increase stamina and strength. And the top 4 positions are held by the main characters anyway. At this rate, they only need 3 more point sticks. Suddenly, a mocking voice rang out. Hey, everyone, come see who it is. In front of him now was a group of unfamiliar students. One of them sneered, "Oh, it's Beck Irian from Class S." At that moment, he also recognized this guy as Raiden, someone who had become quite famous in the academy recently. Looking at the group of lackeys next to him, Irian sighed in frustration, and there's also members of Lex Byland's crew. Jeremy's weak-ass entourage too. All of them are trouble. But then he suddenly realized something. They've already gotten 3 point sticks. For such a weak person, how did he manage to collect so many? Another person spoke up. I heard he's a failure who had to cheat to get into Class S. Hearing this, the blonde guy burst out laughing. Getting into Class S by solving those 3 stupid questions must mean Stella was tricked. On the other side, Yun Sung thought with frustration, damn it, are you ever going to get tired of repeating the same thing? The other guy, seeing Irian not daring to say anything, became even more smug. Hey, since we've met here, you'd better hand over your point stick to us. He just replied coldly, I'd rather not. The blonde guy became even more interested. Oh, you want to resist? He gave a cunning smile. You think you can take us on alone? Huh? Are you planning to use that high mid-tier staff? How ridiculous. You can't even use magic, let alone a staff. Faced with these provocations, our hero still didn't know what to do. With just a low-level Flash Step, I won't be able to face Raiden, who comes from a famous family. If I have 3 Flash Steps, then I still have a way. That is to use the point stick in my hand. Furthermore, this place is a dungeon, which is an advantage for me. With that thought, Irian held out the point stick. Here, it's yours. The blonde guy, seeing his opponent finally give in, looked pleased. Good boy, that's what I like to see. Don't be too happy just yet. karma comes quickly. At that moment, seeing that his opponent had let down his guard, Irian rushed forward as fast as a lightning bolt. He then snatched his point stick and smiled slyly. He used the stick itself as a weapon, striking directly at his magic circle. The magic circle immediately cracked, and the other guy gritted his teeth and cursed, "Damn it, you damn commoner." Immediately after, he was thrown back, hitting a tree hard. Raiden was furious now, roaring, "You son of a bitch!" But the whole group was stunned to see that he had disappeared. Before they could recover, a familiar voice called out again, "Hey, over here." Following the voice, Raiden whipped around. At that moment, Irian was standing there, grinning. That was dangerous, but thanks. And so, Yuan Sung now had 2 point sticks in his hand. Raiden went crazy, screaming, "You bastard! Give it back." In a teasing manner, Irian replied, "Nah, I don't feel like it." At that moment, our hero was quite pleased with his plan. The point stick really is effective. He had accidentally learned this while playing the game. But these point sticks are actually a bugged item with no value at all. But because of their absurdly high durability, they can't be destroyed by the student's magic. They possess the power of most other magical tools, although it's more useful for those who use magic. But for Irian, a physical attacker, a weapon with a high attack stat will be utilized 100%. On the other side, Raiden gritted his teeth angrily. "Damn that bastard. How dare he take my point stick?" He then turned and yelled at his cronies, "Damn it. What are you guys doing? Charge and attack." At the same time, the dungeon began to shake again. Faced with this situation, Raiden just sighed. Damn it. Why is the dungeon changing now of all times? With that thought, he screamed, "Everyone, get close and prepare your magic. We can't lose track of that bastard." But this was the perfect opportunity for Yun Sung to act. He quickly ran away, and his unusual action was spotted by one of Raiden's teammates, who shouted, "Irian is running away, guys." The moment he finished speaking, they used their magic staves to create a blue energy blast aimed straight at Yun Sung. He kept shouting, "You bastard! Where do you think you're going?" This terrifying aura shot towards him, and Yun Sung could only think, "No way. Damn, these guys are better than I thought. But you're still too green." Then, just as it seemed the blast would swallow him, he used Flash Step to escape. Raiden's group was furious but couldn't do anything to him. Damn it, he used Flash Step again. He's too fast. I can't see him anymore. While the whole group was looking ahead, it seemed Yun Sung had already, as fast as a lightning bolt, circled around behind them. At that moment, he confidently thought, because I have 10 years of experience in this game, using the terrain to my advantage is a piece of cake. Raiden, on the other hand, was furious. Damn it, we just need to hit him once. Suddenly, the dungeon began to shake violently again. Seeing everyone's tense faces, Raiden tried to calm them down. "Calm down, guys. He's still around here somewhere. Wait until the earthquake stops, and if you see him, attack together. But if our magic fails, he'll retaliate. So we have to be very careful." At this, he looked around to check. Suddenly, he locked eyes with Yun Sung, and he wasn't just anywhere. He was standing right in front of him. Before they could even make a move, Yun Sung was a step ahead, slamming his point wand straight into their magic formation. This power was too much for their formation to handle. It began to crack and shatter. At the same time, the formation started to backfire on Raiden's cronies. Then came a series of massive explosions. Boom! Their formation blew up in their faces, blasting them backward. This was the unintended side effect, magical backlash. The MC quickly dashed away from the area. Watching the entire group get wrecked by their own formation, the MC thought with satisfaction, "It's over." When the smoke from the explosion cleared, Raiden looked up and snarled, "Damn it, that bastard Baekhyun." In response, Beck held up 3 of their point wands and said smugly, "I'll be taking these." Then, with a taunting smirk, he added, "Oh, And if I get girlfriend, I'll give this to her. Bye-bye, sweethearts. Raiden was stunned. When did you take those? Give them back. Seeing their pathetic state, our hero was immensely satisfied. This is enough. Taking their last one would just be a hassle, he thought. He added aloud, man, that was fun, but I've had enough for today. I'm out. With that, he used blink and vanished, leaving the rival family trembling with rage. Raiden went ballistic, screaming, "You son of a bitch!" Unseen by them, this entire scene was witnessed from start to finish by a female student. Meanwhile, Yoon Sung, now a safe distance away, exclaimed happily, "Haha, I really lucked out. If I fought them normally, I would have been robbed blind. But since this is a dungeon, things are different. This is the wisdom of an experienced player," he mused. But still, I feel like something's off. I'm sensing something strange from somewhere. By the time he realized what it was, it seemed to be too late. A massive fireball was hurtling straight for him. Seeing this, the MC was completely blown away. What the hell is this? Where did this rain of fire come from? Flames rained down right where he was standing. One fireball after another fell like a meteor shower. Wherever they landed, a terrifying explosion erupted. As for Beck, he was powerless to fight back. All he could do was use his blink magic to dodge. He was running for his life now, his calm expression completely gone. Holy hell, what kind of magic is this? This is insane. Looking back at the forest that had been burned to ashes, he was still in shock. That was a close call. I almost bought the farm. But what's with this magic? Is someone trying to kill me? From behind the veil of smoke, a figure emerged and approached him. She stood before him and declared, "Hey you, commoner. Why didn't you take one more wand from them?" And the girl wielding this fire-based power was none other than the princess, Hong Prize-Ion. The MC was surprised. Why is she here, he thought. With that thought, he scratched his head awkwardly and said, I think you're misunderstanding something. It's not like I can just take whatever I want. And besides, what does me taking those wands have to do with you? Hearing this, the princess felt a bit awkward, realizing she might have been a little out of line. But Yoon Sung suddenly realized something. Wait, don't tell me you wanted? That's right. You wanted me to take them from that group, so you could take them from me. What kind of crazy idea is that? Don't you remember? I was the one who taught you before. Hong Prize-Ion placed a hand on her chest and explained, I am royalty. But if you already understand my intentions, then let's fight. As a member of the royal family, robbing a commoner is the last thing I want to do. But in this competition, I have no other choice. I will defeat you and take what I need. The MC was so scared he almost wet his pants. He quickly replied, Hey, what are you trying to do? Why are you picking on someone weaker than you? You weak? Hong Prize-Ion continued. But I just saw you fighting and toying with them, didn't I? You used magic and defeated them, right? As she said this, a thought crossed her mind, though she was reluctant to admit it. I need to hurry this up. If I don't want to get an earful from my mother, I need to get the highest score possible. Suddenly, Hong Prize-Ion sensed a noise approaching. It was Raiden's game. Where did that Baekhyun run off to? Damn it, that bastard is too damn cunning. And it seemed Princess Prize-Ion recognized this group as well. On the other side, Baekhyun had already started to make a run for it. The princess was now conflicted, wondering how to handle the situation. Should I attack them now? But no matter how strong I am right now, I can't take on all 6 of them. That's it. I need to wait until their magic is depleted. That will be my chance to strike. Meanwhile, Baekhyun wasn't just going to wait around to die. He launched an attack from behind Raiden, then used his magic to strike their formation directly. Hong Prize-Ion, watching from a distance, was quite surprised. She never expected that commoner to be able to use magic other than blink. Of course, those guys are weaker than me, but they're still skilled fighters. Compared to that country bumpkin, they should be much better, right? Faced with this situation, the young woman bit her lip, a determined glint in her eyes. Almost instantly, a mystical formation appeared, and a swirling torrent of fire energy enveloped her. It's time to unleash my fire magic, she thought. Breaking from her thoughts, she launched a devastatingly powerful magic spell straight ahead. On the opposite side, Baekhyun also sensed this formidable surge of magic. Quick as a flash, he used Blink. In an instant, he was in a different location. He suddenly realized the pressure from that magic was closing in fast, more intense than ever. Indeed, a gigantic flame was roaring towards him. He used Blink again, and then once more. He appeared and disappeared, sometimes soaring high into the air, other times landing lightly on the ground. Meanwhile, Hong Prizion remained highly focused. Her eyes never left the path of the flame. And then, boom, an earth-shattering explosion echoed, shaking the very space around them. Only then did the MC dare to let out a breath, thinking to himself, "Man, this girl's magic is seriously terrifying. Good thing I have a sixth sense, or I would have been toast. But I've already used Blink twice. How am I supposed to deal with her now?" Prizion suddenly spoke up. "Why aren't you taking out your magic wand this time?" Yoon Sung looked dumbfounded and replied, "You're already holding my magic wand." Hong Prizion asked again, "What about the one you were given at the entrance ceremony?" Hearing this, he was stunned. "Oh, right. Why didn't I think of that?" Seeing his phony act, Hong Prizion was fed up. "How long are you going to keep holding back?" As she said this, her eyes suddenly became sharp, turning a frightening, fiery red. She looked straight at Baekhyun, thinking furiously, "I'm taking this fight seriously. Does that commoner think this is some kind of joke?" At that thought, she snapped, "All right, if you won't fight properly, then I'll just have to put you in the dirt right here." Yoon Sung felt a chill run down his spine. He got goosebumps all over, thinking, "Holy crap, I am fighting seriously. I'm not messing with you." On the other side, Hong Prizion was still rambling. "If you're not going to be serious, then..." Just then, behind Hong Prizion, a sea of blazing fire erupted. Her face shone with determination as she thought, "Today I'll definitely give you a taste of defeat." Lost in thought, she directed the flames straight towards Baekhyun. At this point, Baekhyun couldn't keep his cool either. He desperately dodged, sometimes leaning left, sometimes ducking right. After a struggle, he was completely stunned by the scene before him. He collapsed to the ground, his mind blank, with no idea what to do now. But this was no time to rest. He jumped back up, facing the massive wall of fire. He thought to himself, "Damn it, even if I dodge with Blink, her attack range is just too wide. What am I supposed to do?" Suddenly, he heard a strange sound and turned to look behind him. At that moment, a reckless idea flashed in his mind. Immediately after, he showcased his top-tier Blink skills. Quick as a flash of lightning, he leaped to a higher position, a place where the flames had not yet reached. Looking back, the flames were burning more fiercely and spreading wider. Baekhyun, however, had luckily escaped death by hiding behind a large rock. He glanced down, thinking, "I was lucky to dodge that time, but it was a real struggle. Even if I manage to get close to Hong Prizion, the flames surrounding her will flare up to protect her when I approach. I know this well, having fought many fire-type mages before. But her skill level is much higher than I thought. If this were flat terrain, I would have lost in a heartbeat. No, I might not have even had a chance to fight at all." Baekhyun watched the sparks of fire fly around like rain when an idea struck him. Could I use the power of these magic wands? His eyes grew more determined. This fight ain't over yet. Lost in thought, he bravely charged straight into the heart of the raging sea of fire. Countless sparks of fire were hurtling towards him. At this moment, his mana leak syndrome was activated. He possessed a sixth sense, and his perception speed skyrocketed. For him, time seemed to stand still. He could easily slash away Hong Prizion's magic. Witnessing her powerful fire sparks being swatted away by a commoner, Hong Prizion couldn't believe her eyes. She exclaimed, "Impossible! How can he use a weapon to counter magic? How is this possible?" Meanwhile, Baekhyun was still struggling in this fierce battle. He felt that as time went on, the sensation became clearer. This isn't a game controlled by a keyboard and mouse. This is facing magic head-on with my own body. Clearly, the surrounding magic pressure was growing stronger. His sixth sense was as clear as sight and hearing. Hong Prize-Ion, on the other hand, was still baffled. How can this be happening? She thought. In this mountainous forest terrain, my fire magic should have the advantage, right? Oomph. If that's the case, then my only option is to increase my magical power. No sooner said than done. She poured all her power into the magic wand. Baekhyun was still desperately slashing away the magic attacks, fighting for his life. Then he quickly dashed behind a rock to rest and catch his breath. He suddenly thought, I can't just keep defending like this. That's right, I have to break Hong Prize-Ion's magic shield with this wand. After that, he charged through the sea of fire, getting closer to Hong Prize-Ion's position. His footsteps became closer and more rapid. When he was just a short distance from Hong Prize-Ion, he used Blink to quickly close the gap. This completely astonished Hong Prize-Ion, who thought, it's over. She spun around, furious. At this moment, Baekhyun had stepped inside her fire magic array. Their eyes locked, and sparks flew between them. Yoon-sung silently calculated, when approaching a fire mage, their explosive magic will push back any enemy within a 2-meter radius. Thinking of this, he suddenly chuckled. For others, this might be an impossible task. But for someone with 10 years of experience like Baekhyun, it was a different story. He'd been through this countless times. Instantly, he was blasted away by her magic, leaving her standing there with her jaw dropped in shock. But without faltering, Baekhyun quickly regained his balance and charged forward again. He decisively used the point wands to strike her protective barrier. It created cracks on its surface. Hong Prize-Ion still couldn't understand. How is he doing that? On the other side, Baekhyun refused to stop, relentlessly hammering away at the shield. The shield couldn't take it anymore and shattered into pieces. The backlash sent Hong Prize-Ion flying backward, severely injured. She whimpered in pain. Baekhyun walked closer, a bright smile on his face, and sat down. I win. Hong Prize-Ion felt utterly humiliated. A princess, defeated so shamefully. She asked resentfully, Who in the world are you? Baekhyun slowly stood up and replied, Oh, I'm just an ordinary student. Then he added meaningfully, But the person hiding over there can come out now, right? Realizing she'd been discovered, Flame cautiously stepped out. Flame was quite surprised and asked, You didn't need to hide there. But how did you know I was here? The MC didn't know how to explain. He just gave an awkward laugh and said, let's just call it a hunch. But in reality, he knew the simple reason, or more accurately, his intuition for sensing mana. But how could Flame believe such a lame excuse? She sighed, a hunch, huh? Then how did you break a magic shield with an ordinary point wand? The MC froze like a statue after hearing this question. Flame added, Well, explain it. Or are you going to say that was a hunch too? Hearing this, the MC thought, she's right. This kind of thing would never happen in the original romance novel. It's natural for Flame to be curious, but I can't tell her the truth. With that in mind, he cleverly pointed to the point wand in his hand and said cheerfully, this? This wand is really sturdy. Flame looked annoyed. What does it being sturdy have to do with anything? You think you could just swing it around and break a magic shield? If that were the case, the knights in this world would have already wiped us mages off the map. Baekhyun had to admit she had a point. He thought, she's right. She's absolutely right. The MC's evasiveness only made Flame more confused. She exclaimed, I've always felt something strange about you from the beginning, but I never had the chance to ask you this. Baekhyun, who are you really? Princess Prize-Ion, who had been standing by like an invisible person, couldn't help but be surprised after eavesdropping. Meanwhile, faced with Flame's relentless questions, Baekhyun's face was drenched in sweat. He was racking his brain for a solution. Has the time finally come? It's been less than a month, and my identity is already being questioned. Should I just reveal my true identity? No, I can't. Flame doesn't have a good impression of me at all. Doing that would be too dangerous. With that thought, the MC said, even if you're suspicious of me, I'm not a bad person. Hearing this, Flame was confused. Huh? What do you mean? The MC forced a smile and continued. Well, just like I said, I only want to help you. This made Flame even more confused. Help me? Help with what? What are you trying to say? Stop being so cryptic, it's annoying. But the MC didn't explain further and turned to leave, waving his hand. I'd like to say more, but there's no time. Well then, I'll be going. This left Flame so frustrated she was practically fuming. And it was his actions today that made Princess Hong Prize-Ian see him in a completely different light. It seemed she was plotting something crazy. The MC thought, looks like I'm in the clear. I'll just slip away. Hopefully, these two will leave me alone. Suddenly, someone threw the point wands at him. Twek, twek, twek. The culprit was none other than Hong Prize-Ian. After throwing them, she stood there, stunned. After taking the full combo, the MC clutched his head in pain and turned back to yell, Dude, if you have something to say, just say it. Why play such dirty tricks? Hong Prize-Ian spoke up. I thought you would catch them. You can easily dodge all sorts of magic and traps, but you can't catch these? Baekhyun heard these ridiculous words and gave up, thinking, I'm out of options. The mana leak syndrome has its limits. I can't maintain that intuition forever. As he thought this, he feigned pain. Ow, that hurts. The duration of the mana leak depends on my spirit power. Since my spirit power is depleted, I've lost my quick reflexes and I have a headache. But suddenly the MC asked, So why did you throw these at me? Hong Prize-Ian answered without hesitation. You won, so take them. Although these point wands seemed quite important, he thought to himself, is she just being proud? But if I take all of these, my score will skyrocket. Besides, these things are useless to me. With that thought, he bent down, picked up 1 point wand, then stood up and said cheerfully, All right, thanks, but I'll just take this one. You can keep the rest. Well, I'm off then. With that, he turned and left, not forgetting to wave goodbye. As he walked away, he was lost in a delusion of grandeur, smiling to himself. They must be so impressed with my actions. Such a kind man, always merciful to the defeated. This makes me look so cool. I hope they think so too. But the harsh reality was that they thought no such thing. Flame exclaimed, What? Is there something wrong with that guy? He's completely nuts. Hong Prize-Ian, feeling the same way, said wearily, He's probably a commoner, so his brain is a little messed up. But deep down, she now wondered, what is this Baekhyun's true identity? Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, Professor Lee and the other professors were intently watching every move. The actions of the contestants. The images projected were incredibly vivid and realistic. Watching this far, one person exclaimed, Ho ho ho! This year's first-year S-class students are all rare talents, hard to come by. Following the voice, Professor Lee Hang-gun also turned to observe. He was stroking his beard and continued. All in all, watching this has been worth every penny, don't you think? And this man was T.L.E.S., an elder of the Magic Council. The woman standing beside him agreed with the senior's opinion and spoke up. Indeed, it's very interesting. She was smiling from ear to ear, pleased, perhaps thinking, I was even more amazing than this when I was young. Heh. And this woman was Zurina Aon, a member of the Blue Tower Council. Their appearance surprised Professor Lee Hang-gun quite a bit. He thought, the Magic Council, the Blue Tower Council. For just a student internship observation, so many influential figures have gathered. But it makes sense. If you want to recruit talent, you have to do this. I'm sure most of the other professors are watching this internship session as well. Suddenly, the people around them started murmuring and exclaiming, Look! Look! Professor Lee also turned to look at the screen. Before them was the image of two male students who seemed to be preparing to fight. Quickly, everyone recognized the identity of these two students. They exclaimed, He Wunjing and Ma Yusung are about to clash. Immediately after, He Wunjing made the first move. He used his magic wand to create an extremely powerful magic attack, then aimed it straight at his opponent. On the other side, Ma Yusung was completely unfazed, calmly standing and observing. And then, as the attack approached, he leaped high into the air. He even jumped 3 consecutive times like that to dodge his opponent's magic. And it was this feat that left everyone in awe and admiration. Zuna Il said, "Oh, holy crap. He can actually activate a level 3 magic leap 3 times in a row. That's incredible." Professor TLES was no less astonished. Indeed, at the age of 17, he could already do that. Professor Lee kept his eyes glued to the screen, thinking, normally, an ordinary mage would need to be at least 25 to reach level 3. Yet, Ma Yu-sung, at only 17, can skillfully use level 3 magic? Unbelievable. Suddenly, a surprised voice cried out, "Look! Look, both of them are proficient in 3 elemental attributes." The match between the 2 evenly matched opponents was becoming more intense and dramatic. Witnessing this scene, Professor Lee had to marvel, thinking, an ordinary mage can only control 1 attribute and must train arduously to control 2. Indeed, being able to control 3 attributes is proof of innate genius. And they were gifted with that talent from the moment they were born. Watching up to this point, Professor Lee's eyes suddenly widened in astonishment. "Dude, is that the final boss monster?" At that moment, a giant eagle appeared, its eyes filled with killing intent that radiated outwards. This startled both Ma Yu-sung and He Wunjing, causing them to pause. But before they could react, the bird opened its beak and screamed in agony. Its tragic cries echoed throughout the dungeon, and immediately after, it slowly fell from the sky. This horrified them both. They were speechless. They couldn't understand what the hell was happening. The bird fell right in front of them, landing with a thud on the ground. Immediately after, a sweet voice rang out. "Oh my, are you two fighting?" The voice came from the girl Islon, standing on a high ledge. She continued with a bit of shyness. "I'm sorry for interrupting you." Watching this, Professor Lee pondered, "Oh, that girl is Islon." Hidden monsters only appear when certain conditions are met. They're not only hard to find, but also very difficult to defeat. And yet, that girl managed to hunt one all by herself. But seeing her achievement, the professors behind him didn't seem to expect it, and there was a hint of pity for the poor girl. One said, "Humph, the eldest daughter of the traitor Maffeo. What a pity. If her father hadn't done such a terrible thing, her talent would have blossomed even more." As he said this, his eyes suddenly widened in astonishment. "Huh, what's this? Is that the princess of the Adalavith kingdom? But who is her opponent?" His face is completely unfamiliar. At this point, Professor Lee couldn't maintain his composure anymore and exclaimed, "What? That magic? Could it be Blink?" Speaking of Blink, for hundreds of years, many scholars have tried to control it, but all of them either died or were crippled, so they had to give up. It truly is a magic that cannot be easily controlled. And yet that kid can control Blink as skillfully as if it were his own limbs. The elder of the Magic Council, TLES, thought to himself. He was no less astonished than Professor Lee. Suddenly, in the silent atmosphere, people couldn't help but ask, "Who on earth is that boy?" Professor Lee immediately replied, "That student's name is Baekhyun. He is an extremely special student who can use Blink as his specialty magic." Hearing this, everyone was incredibly shocked. Another person spoke up, "For real? Blink can be a specialty magic?" This is a completely different case from the innate talents of Ma Yu-sung, He Wunjing, or Azel. The elder of the Magic Council was also quite confused. "Oh, is that so? But why isn't he using other magic and just toying with her? If he used magic, the duel would have ended instantly. I really don't understand. Just as he finished speaking, someone who had just entered said, "No, he is fighting for real." At the sound of the voice, everyone present turned to look. The sudden appearance of this person seemed to have shocked them greatly. They stammered, "You are Elman Elwin." He added, "He was fighting seriously from the very beginning. You all couldn't see it, could you? How interesting." "Ah, what I mean is, watching that student fight reminds me of the chivalric orders that existed in ancient times." Hearing this, one person was utterly shocked and exclaimed, "Did you say chivalric order? How is that possible? Unbelievable." And TLES was no exception. He was also incredibly surprised. "Do you mean the chivalric order that vanished along with cold weapons?" Note, cold weapons are weapons not involving combustion from gunpowder or other explosives. But how can such a young student? It's miraculous. Professor Lee, still glued to the screen, finally seemed to realize the issue. He thought, well, so that's it. A chivalric order. Not bad at all. The term chivalric order refers to the fighting spirit of those who use swords in this world of magic. They were the heroes who fought against evil, protecting the world since ancient times. A chivalric order always fought against evil with the sword. In a world where magic exists, fighting with a sword, that was considered impossible. And yet, this student was actually wielding a point wand like a real sword. Moreover, if that's Elman Elwin's speculation, then that kid is truly a rare talent. The principal of Stella Academy, known as the best magic school in the world, Elman Elwin, is also a Grandmaster-level mage. Furthermore, he is one of the 10 great sages on the continent, if that's what the great sage thinks. And so, the first dungeon training session came to an end. At this time, on the dedicated training ground for S-class students, a student seemed to be training diligently. He was using a magic wand to create magical energy to attack a dummy in front of him. After training for a while, he was exhausted, panting for breath. Suddenly, he realized that the mana of his magic wand was almost depleted. But it seemed he was still not satisfied with his power, thinking, "Damn it, this isn't good enough. I'm still too green." Out of the 141 participants in this dungeon training session, 39 failed to meet the quota and were eliminated. Aislan was the one who defeated the final boss, ranking first. I myself ranked second. Ma Yusung ranked sixth, but I don't feel like I won. He recalled the moment of battle in the dungeon. Back then, when the final boss appeared, if Aislan hadn't interfered, I might have learned the true strength of that Ma Yusung. Thinking of this, He Wunjang gritted his teeth in frustration, unwilling to accept it. Perhaps from their very first meeting, he had felt annoyed by this Ma Yusung guy. He did everything with ease, but no matter what he did, Ma Yusung always produced results that far exceeded expectations. In this training session, I set up magic formations everywhere and carefully calculated their movements. Despite that, Ma Yusung easily blocked the attacks and stopped them. No matter what I do, I can't seem to beat that kid. Is his talent as thick and high as a fortress wall? No, not now. I don't have time for self-pity. I have to try even harder. At the same time, Hong Prize-Ian had also just arrived at the training ground. The first thing she saw was a male student using a magic wand to create a huge tornado of power. When she looked closer, she was quite surprised. "Oh, hey Wunjang, that kid is always so calm, yet today he's training like a madman possessed." But this isn't what I came to say. With that thought, she used her magic to create a fire formation. Blazing orange light radiated from her entire body. Immediately after, she aimed at the target in front of her and launched the flame. And then a massive explosion erupted. It seems her mood wasn't great today either. Was she frustrated about something that made her train so frantically? The flame continued to burn, and the loud explosion attracted He Wunjang's attention. He stopped and turned to see who could create such a powerful magic surge. On the other side, Princess Hong Prize-Ian was still fuming. "I can't believe I only ranked third, even with the bonus points. Mother was quite pleased, but if I don't get my act together, I'll be punished. Damn it, a commoner acting all high and mighty all the time. Such bad luck. In the midst of her thoughts, a powerful blast was unleashed. A blinding light radiated from the explosion in front of her. Hong Prizine was also exhausted, panting for breath. Hei Woonjang, standing nearby, was wide-eyed and open-mouthed, wondering, "Whoa, what's with the princess today?" But I don't know if it's because of her mood or not. But the princess's magic is much more precise than before. I never expected Princess Hong Prizian's flame magic to have such destructive power, and that she could control it so well in such a short time. Or was this just a fluke? Hong Prizine was also surprised by her own achievement. Damn it, she thought. Although I don't want to admit it, Baekhyun's special lecture wasn't ineffective. By applying his previous advice, my magic has improved significantly. Even though he's just a commoner, and both his score and personality are the worst, Baekhyun is definitely the only one who knows how to fix my weaknesses. But why the hell do I still feel so annoyed? "Oh, for heaven's sake," someone called out, "Your Highness." Hong Prizine looked up and replied, "Katerina, what is it?" The woman continued, "The Terivo scepter you requested has been repaired. Should I tell Baekhyun right now?" Looking at the scepter, Hong Prizine replied, "Yes, that's better." Hearing this, Katerina replied, "Very well, I shall go now." Then she turned to leave. But the princess suddenly had a thought and tapped her shoulder to stop her. "Wait." Katerina was confused. "What is it, Your Highness?" A little later, at the second main tower, Princess Hong Prizine held Baekhyun's scepter, feeling conflicted. "I heard Baekhyun was here, so I came. This is the second main tower where the professor's research labs are. But what the hell is he doing here? Is he meeting with the professors?" Suddenly, Hong Prizine jumped, her eyes wide. Then she turned away, thinking, "Wait, why did I have to come here? I could have just given it to him at the training grounds. Doing this makes it seem like I'm intentionally seeking out that commoner. No, I should definitely go back first." Lost in thought, a voice suddenly spoke up. "Oh my, princess, what are you doing here?" Hearing this, Hong Prizine jumped and looked up, stammering, "Professor Heron, hello. It's been a while." "Ah, no, Professor. It feels like just yesterday I was teaching you magic, and now you've grown up so much. Time flies. But what brings you here, princess?" Hong Prizine replied nervously, I had something to do here, but something urgent came up, so I was planning to come back later." Seeing the princess's awkward demeanor, Heron said matter-of-factly, "That's probably for the best. It's a bit chaotic in there right now. You should come back later." Hong Prizine was surprised and speechless. Heron continued, "Well, right now all the magic officials have come here because of the student Baekhyun." This made Hong Prizine even more astonished. Curious about what was happening, she asked, "But why are they looking for that commoner?" Heron replied, "I'm sure you know that student doesn't use magic, right?" Hong Prizine answered hesitantly, "Yes." But she felt sad and ashamed, thinking, so the professor saw that match. Why did I have to show such a pathetic side of myself in front of the teacher I respect the most? So embarrassing. Boo-hoo. Heron noticed the change in the princess's expression and comforted her. "You don't need to blame yourself, princess, because your opponent also did his best." Hong Prizine whispered, "But he didn't even use magic." Professor Heron laughed and replied, That's not it. It's because of his conviction." "Conviction?" Hong Prizine asked, surprised. "That's right. After watching the training session, the principal believes that this student is trying to revive the chivalric order that vanished in the past," Professor Heron explained. But this made Hong Prizine even more incredulous. "Professor, what are you talking about? Baekhyun and a chivalric order? How is that possible?" As she said this, she froze for 5 seconds, recalling how Baekhyun fought her. She thought, "It's unbelievable, but it's true that Baekhyun used the scepter like a sword. He shattered my protective shield with just a point wand. And this magic sword is the same. Thinking of this, she felt a bit downcast, then stammered. But if you don't use magic at a magic school, you'll receive a very heavy penalty, right? During magic practice, you could get penalty points and more. Heron's tone became somber. Yes, that student knows this well, but still chooses to walk that path. But isn't it wonderful? Even though he's achieved amazing results with Blink, he still tries so hard. I can't believe conviction is real. With that, the professor said goodbye and left, leaving Princess Hong Prize-Ion standing there, lost in her own thoughts. She believed that if anyone said they wanted to pursue a chivalric order, they would obviously be laughed at. It was like a ridiculous joke in this era. It was truly laughable. And yet, Baekhyun isn't joking. He genuinely wants to pursue the path of a knight. I got angry and told him to stop messing around. Suddenly, Baekhyun appeared, cutting off her train of thought. What are you doing here? Not only that, but he was also munching on the 5th place prize, an Edelweiss jelly. Hong Prize-Ion was so flustered her cheeks turned bright red. But then she regained her composure and replied, "Well, I didn't come here looking for you." She confessed before he even asked, which made Baekhyun chuckle. Hey, I didn't say anything. At his teasing attitude, Hong Prize-Ion glared at him with eyes as sharp as daggers. This silenced the MC, who didn't dare say another word. Then, Hong Prize-Ion held out a box in front of him and said coldly, "All right, here, take this." As soon as he saw the box, the MC was overjoyed. His eyes lit up. "Oh, it's the Terivo. Thank you so much." He then opened it to check. He was so impressed his eyes widened. Looking at the beautiful, sparkling sword, he thought, "Wow, this is an invisible sword." The craftsmanship of Adalovith is truly top-notch. Helping the princess was a wise decision. I couldn't have bought this with the money I have now. With that thought, he said, "Can I keep the box?" But his true intentions were written all over his face. "If I sell this, it'll probably fetch a good price." Hith. Hong Prize-Ion replied wearily, "Whatever." Hearing this, Baekhyun was ecstatic. "Yes, I've got more money. What a score." Seeing his excitement, Hong Prize-Ion shook her head in exasperation. Sigh, what a commoner. That's all he can think about. But there was still something she didn't understand and didn't dare to ask him directly. After thinking for a moment, the princess gathered her courage and asked, "Hey, Baekhyun." The MC was confused. "Yeah? What's up?" Hong Prize-Ion continued. "You really don't use any other magic?" Faced with this unexpected question, the MC froze for 5 seconds, speechless. And Princess Hong Prize-Ion, after asking, also felt she was a bit out of line, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. Then she turned and left in shame. It's nothing. I'm leaving." The MC stood there, watching her retreating figure, then turned and left as well. As he walked, he thought, "Other magic, huh?" But thinking back, Professor Lee Hagen said the same thing earlier. Although he spoke as if he understood my feelings and respected my opinion, I didn't get it at all. What's so good about it? As long as I have this magic sword in my hand, I can rest a little easier. Thinking this, he exclaimed, "All right, I should test out how powerful this sword is." A little later, he arrived at the dedicated training ground for the S-class. Holding the sword, he muttered, "Let's see, just pour mana into it." As he spoke, a fiery light radiated from around his hand, and immediately after, a sharp sword materialized. Looking at the sword in his hand, he exclaimed in admiration, "Wow, so beautiful. It's even better than I thought." But then he grew pensive. If Flame were holding it, it would be different. It would have even more beautiful colors. The female lead, Flame, is a very special existence. Even though she's human, she can use the magic of fairies, dwarves, and elves. That one alone, no one else can use it because it constantly drains the user's mana. But Flame can recover mana using natural energy and uses that wand as a special technique. But what about me? I have no mana at all. Even though I've tried to absorb mana continuously, Due to the mana leak, it can't accumulate in my body and gets pushed out. In other words, the mana concentration in my breath becomes the output for the Terivo. He suddenly remembered he hadn't checked the dam system in a while. He opened it up, muttering, "I should check my status." Suddenly, a stat screen appeared. The stats displayed for Baekhyun were Muscle 1 star at 77%, Perception 2 star at a modest 29%, Agility 1 star was incredibly impressive at 87%, while Stamina 1 star was at 55%. His toughness at 0 stars was nearly perfect at 97%. Spirit Power 1 star was only 43%, while Mana and Experience were both a big fat 0. His Blink skill was now level 1, accompanied by the Mana Leak trait at level 2. This trait provided interesting effects. Muscle plus 5%, Agility plus 8%, and Perception plus 15%. His Sixth Sense, a special ability, was activated by consuming Spirit Power, allowing him to detect mana phenomena within an 18m range and increase his perception speed. Even better, it would automatically turn on when he was in danger, with blood circulation at 1%. Glancing at the status board, he felt a surge of satisfaction. Awesome. I ate that divine medicine, the 5th place prize, so my muscles got a nice little boost. But later on, once I have a weapon, I'll probably grind experience more directly to speed things up. Thinking this, he told himself, I need to practice using a sword. Looks like I'll be busy as hell from now on. The scene quickly shifts to the next morning at the academy. In a classroom, a mage's voice boomed with authority. From today, we will begin practical training in synchronous magic. Everyone, spread out, raise your magic wands, and prepare to practice. The professor in charge was none other than the defensive magic professor, Perrin. After a long-winded explanation, the professor calmly walked down to observe his students. Everyone seemed focused. All you could hear were the students chanting, "Magic Shield! Magic Shield!" Professor Perrin glanced over the class, a satisfied look on his face, his eyes crinkling. He thought, all talented students this year. Ranking them by level like this is the perfect system. Suddenly, he froze in surprise. While the rest of the class was enthusiastically practicing, Baekhyun was just standing there like a statue, doing absolutely nothing. The professor frowned, thinking, what the heck? Isn't that kid the legendary S-class student? An S-class student from a commoner background with a mid-tier magic wand still managed to rank 5th in the last dungeon training. Unbelievable. It's an eyesore. With that thought, Professor Perrin approached, forcing a somewhat strained smile. Hey, you there. You're Baekhyun, right? Why aren't you practicing at all? Our hero was at a loss for words, not knowing how to explain. He just chuckled and replied, Yes, sir. It's because I'm learning a different defense method, so I don't need to learn basic magic. Hearing this, the professor continued, his voice tinged with curiosity. Oh, is that so? I'm curious about this different defense method of yours. But inwardly, he was seething, damn this arrogant brat. If it were Princess Hong, Prize Iron, learning the inherited magic of a Dalavith, that would be one thing. But what the hell does a commoner know to look down on my class? Not bad, kid. But I heard this Baekhyun guy only knows Blink and no other magic. Aha. Well, I've got something fun in store for you. With that thought, he put on another fake smile and said, Oh, in that case, why don't you demonstrate your amazing defense skills for the other students? Let's open their eyes a bit. Your opponent will be... He paused for a few seconds. Glancing behind him before continuing, your opponent will be Maso from Class B. What do you say? His gaze fell on a student in the distance, who looked quite pleased with himself, smirking confidently. While waiting for Baekhyun's answer, the professor was scheming. Aha! As a defensive magic instructor, these personal connections are very important for me to survive at this school. Maso Darden is from the Scanvan Empire. If he performs well, I'll look good too. And what could be better than him showing off top-tier magic against an S-class student, right? On the other side, after some hesitation, Baekhyun nodded. Yes, sir. If you insist. With that, the teacher's spirits lifted. Then get on the dueling platform, you two. Immediately, they both stepped onto the platform. While Maso Darden strutted with a smug grin, Baekhyun seemed rather indifferent to the match. Maso's friends were cheering loudly. Hey Maso, crush that kid. Humiliate him. We believe in you, go for it. Maso replied confidently, his voice full of challenge. Of course, just watch. The recent commotion caught Baekhyun's attention. He quickly recognized the group and sighed in exasperation. Dude, what is this? Now that I look closer, this is Raiden's gang. Just a bunch of nasty kids. But whatever, this is a required course, so I have to participate. And since I can't use magic, there's not much else to do. If you all want a show, then I'll give you one. He thought again. Professor Perrin's bad reputation has been around since freshman year. How ridiculous. Then he suddenly smiled mysteriously. Well, I might as well test the results of my training. Not too bad. The professor solemnly announced. This match will be in an attack and defense format. Furthermore, no other magic is allowed. At this point, Maso had taken a defensive stance, ready to fight. The students below started whispering, Hey, Maso's got this in the attack round, right? Defense is just defense. I heard he's learned earth-based attack magic. It'll be hard to get through that. Yet, Prince Jeremy Scanlon appeared completely calm, watching intently. The professor's voice rang out again. Ready. Begin. Show me your best skills. Instantly, Maso raised his wand and created a magic formation, and a giant boulder appeared out of nowhere. Seeing this, the students below turned pale. Oh my god, that's level 2 magic. In basic magic practice, the unwritten rule is to only use level 1 magic. Is Baekhyun going to be okay? On the other side, Baekhyun remained calm, unfazed, focusing on his opponent's every move. Maso was fuming. Damn you, arrogant S-class brat. Take this. In the midst of his thoughts, Maso yelled, Stone Bullet. Instantly, the boulder shot forward. The power radiating from it was incredibly strong. Baekhyun didn't back down, acting quickly. He channeled mana into the magic wand in his hand, and immediately a sword materialized. Without a moment's hesitation, he swung the sword forward. The slash seemed light, but its power was not to be underestimated. The boulder created by his opponent was shattered into dust by Baekhyun. Even the professor was frozen for a good 5 seconds, speechless. Prince Jeremy Scanlon, however, didn't seem surprised at all. As for Maso, he was so shocked he was trembling, stammering, what? In no way. My magic? It disappeared. The harsh reality is that it was obliterated by Baekhyun, my friend. Ha ha ha. The students below were also buzzing with chatter. One said, it looked like he cut through magic with a sword. Another was confused, but did the magic really just disappear? It's completely absurd. The most heartbroken person right now was probably the professor. He pondered with a troubled expression. Impossible. It can't just disappear so absurdly with a simple slash. But did Baekhyun really dispel Maso's magic? All magic has traces of mana. If the mana is separated, the magic will vanish. Is that what Baekhyun did? Meanwhile, Baek calmly raised the sword to admire it, a satisfied smile on his face. Better than I thought. I've only managed to dispel level 3 magic so far, but after just a few days in the training yard, the results are this good. Absolutely fantastic. This is worth a try. This is my playground now. Maso was so furious he was grinding his teeth. He muttered, damn it. How dare a commoner block my magic? The professor began to calculate in his head. If Maso loses here, it'll be hard to explain. I can't just stand by and watch. With that thought, he spoke up. Baekhyun, I admit your defense method is something else. But that method can only stop magic one at a time. It has its limits. For example, what about a large-scale attack? These words sounded like he was feeding Maso a strategy. He quickly understood the professor's hint, and a cunning smile spread across his face. Baekhyun thought wearily. This old man loves to spout nonsense. Suddenly, his eyes widened in surprise. On the other side, Maso had quickly acted, creating even more boulders. A truly formidable opponent. Instantly, he directed all the boulders towards Baekhyun, releasing an incredibly terrifying surge of magic. Seeing this, the students started buzzing again. Isn't that going too far? He could get hurt. Why isn't the professor stopping it? Maso smirked, thinking, it's over now, sweetie. My stone barrage charge. The situation grew increasingly tense. Baekhyun was so shocked his eyes were wide open. Looking at the boulders of all sizes hurtling towards him, the MC calculated a total of 11 stones. If I can't dodge them all with Blink, the only option is to block them all. With that thought, the boulders were already upon him. But he didn't flinch, lightly swinging the sword in his hand to parry. He seemed to move with effortless grace, yet he caused the boulders to instantly explode into fragments. Witnessing his advanced magic being so easily dispelled by Baekhyun, Maso's surprise turned into extreme rage. He gritted his teeth furiously and exclaimed, "Huh!" Then he roared in his mind, "My strongest magic blocked so easily? How? By what damn power can a despicable commoner do that? Damn it! I'm beyond pissed. Damn it!" On the other hand, someone else was on pins and needles, Professor Perrin, fuming. "Damn it! What the hell is this? And what is that Maso kid doing? This is not good. If he loses, I'm in big trouble. What should I do?" Meanwhile, Baekhyun was a bit surprised by his own magic. He exclaimed, "I just tried to do what I saw in the game. But it's not bad, pretty solid, huh? This is a technique called punning. The Terivo has a weakness. Because the spirit power needed to maintain its form is many times the normal amount, my stamina drops like a rock right after using it. Furthermore, its defense is weaker when blocking a single object, so it's actually very difficult to use. Good thing this is just a practice match. Otherwise, who knows how things would have turned out." Below, the students were buzzing again. "Wow, I've never seen that before. It looks like a magic shield, doesn't it? Oh, so there's magic like that too? How amazing. That Maso guy is definitely going to lose." At the same time, Maso was probably not happy at all. His face was blank. Then he shouted angrily, "Damn it! Am I really going to be humiliated by a commoner like this? I can't accept this reality." With that, he started channeling mana into his wand, a powerful aura enveloping him. At Maso's reckless action, the students below started whispering behind the teacher's back. "Huh? Look, he's using magic again? Isn't Maso's attack turnover?" Meanwhile, the teacher was intensely focused on the match, oblivious to his surroundings. He smiled smugly, thinking, "That's more like it. Right, keep charging and attacking. Annihilate that commoner brat for me." Then, Maso yelled at Baekhyun, "I won't let you off this time. I can't stand this humiliation." Suddenly, a voice interrupted, "Professor." The professor, who was still grinning, was startled and turned around. "Huh, what is it, Jeremy?" Prince Jeremy Scanlon suddenly smiled, his eyes narrowing. He said, "Why haven't you given Baekhyun the right to attack, sir?" "Hit right where it hurts." The professor froze for 5 seconds, then forced a laugh, stammering, "That's..." At the same time, the students also began to verbally attack the professor. "Hey, isn't this a basic first-year match? He could get seriously injured, and shouldn't it be over by now? How can such an irresponsible professor be a teacher? He's really not qualified to be a teacher." Perrin seemed overwhelmed by the students. He thought anxiously, "Damn it, I was so focused on the match that I ignored the students' reactions. How could I have been so negligent? What should I do now?" Jeremy Scanlon, seeing the professor's silence, spoke up, "Professor, will you switch the attack turn to Baekhyun?" The professor stammered, his voice trembling, "A magic barrier." Meanwhile, as everyone's attention was focused on the professor, they had forgotten about the ongoing match. At that very moment, Baekhyun had gained the upper hand, holding his sword right at his opponent's throat. At this point, the outcome was crystal clear. Baekhyun was the winner. This victory was a huge loss of face for Maso. He finally had to accept the bitter truth that he had lost. The students below were wide-eyed, exclaiming, "Ah, Baekhyun won after all. He's much better than I thought." And it seems Baekhyun had caught the eye of Prince Jeremy Scanlan. He suddenly flashed a mysterious smile, a smile that hinted at ominous things to come. The scene shifts to the royal palace, a place of extravagant, breathtaking beauty. From inside, a horrifying scream echoes, "Ah, please, spare me." And then, a mysterious figure appears. It seems Maso, after his crushing defeat at the hands of a commoner named Baekhyun, is being tortured by someone, with blood splattering everywhere. And the one responsible for this is none other than Prince Jeremy Scanlan. After torturing his opponent to his heart's content, the prince leisurely wiped the blood from his hands and turned to the girl in front of him. "Verezina," the girl respectfully replied. "Yes, Your Highness. What are your orders?" Jeremy Scanlan glanced at Maso, lying limply on the floor, and said, "That classmate of ours is not lightly injured. Did you neglect to take care of him? If something were to happen to him, I would be very heartbroken." These words sounded like a veiled threat, as in, "Take good care of him, or you'll face a grim fate." Verezina quickly replied, "Yes, I understand. Please rest assured, Your Highness." Jeremy Scanlan added in a light tone, "Good. I'm counting on you." Watching Jeremy Scanlan's retreating figure, she couldn't help but feel a little anxious. She thought, not a loyal subject, but a classmate? That sounds strange. In the Scandinavia Empire, where imperial power is determined by magic, Crown Prince Jeremy Scanlan, who surpassed all his royal brothers at the age of 12 to claim the title of Crown Prince. Doesn't not a loyal subject mean the Darden family has been permanently exiled from the political scene? The political arena is where the political elite gather. In fact, it's not just Maso who has caught Crown Prince Jeremy's eye. The life of the commoner, Baekhyun, will certainly not be peaceful from now on. The scene shifts again to the next day at Stellar Academy. Everything was proceeding as usual, with no sense of urgency. In some magic class, it seemed a practical experiment was underway. At the same time, those who had heard about Baekhyun's dramatic match were still whispering about it. "Hey, did you hear? Baekhyun from the S class is aiming to follow the path of a knight. But isn't it weird to study the path of a knight at a magic school? Is he trying to become famous? I heard he beat Maso from the Dorden family. He must be pretty skilled, right? Really? Isn't the Dorden family influential in the Scanvan Empire? This is getting interesting." Flame overheard the conversation and scowled, thinking, "This is so annoying. Everywhere I go, I hear the name Baekhyun. I don't care, but for some reason, it bothers me. Who the hell is that kid anyway?" Just then, a professor's stern voice boomed. "All right now, quiet down everyone. What's all this chatter?" With that, the professor held up a test tube of liquid. Alchemy requires precise measurements, timing, and perfect temperature control. And this professor was none other than the alchemy professor, Maizen Tielen. She continued, her voice full of authority. "Today we will practice making the Tyrant Fatigue recovery potion that I researched myself. Focus on your practical work." Flame, while practicing, thought irritably, "This is so frustrating. One wrong step and it's all ruined. The slightest mistake and it's a total failure." The reality is that alchemy is incredibly difficult and complex, so I want to stay as far away from it as possible. At the same time, the professor's panicked voice rang out, "Antaja, what you're doing is dangerous. Do you know you can't become an alchemist like that?" The blonde girl mumbled, her voice full of remorse. "I'm sorry." Flame watched from a distance, thinking, Professor Maizen said, "I'll become a dark horse. Even better than this. I need to go find ingredients to prepare for that. There's no other way but to listen carefully. I believe I can do it." Suddenly, a smug laugh rang out, catching Flame's attention. "Hiv hiv hiv." Baekhyun seemed to have succeeded, and was laughing triumphantly. Hiv. Fantastic. This is it. Flame was exasperated, her face grim. It's Baekhyun again. Is he crazy, laughing like that? At first, I thought he joined this class to get close to Iceland, but now I see he's just a pervert. What the hell am I witnessing? And she sighed wearily. Well, it has nothing to do with me. I'll go get more ingredients. A little later, successful experiments began to appear one after another. Flame was exhausted after a tense session, gently wiping the sweat from her forehead. She thought, phew, finally done. It's a good thing my academic performance is high, or I wouldn't have been able to do this so quickly. Speaking of which, how's Iceland doing? Seeing Iceland still struggling with her practice, Flame felt relieved. Good thing she's still doing well, as usual. But wait a minute. Usual? If I remember correctly, in the original story, Iceland coincidentally obtained her mother's magic notebook. So isn't this class making a product similar to the Tyranzel fatigue recovery potion? But why is he making such an ordinary potion? Lost in thought, the professor suddenly exploded with anger. She yelled, Baekhyun, who gave you permission to change the experiment's ingredients? Baekhyun replied calmly, well, sir, doing it this way yields better results. Hearing this, the professor was taken aback, then stammered in confusion. But the issue right now is the result. This is completely different from the fatigue recovery potion I instructed you to make. But when Flame saw the potion, she couldn't believe her eyes. She stared in astonishment, thinking, that high-grade potion was supposed to be made by Iceland. How could Baekhyun create something so extraordinary? On the other side, the professor was trying to keep a cool head. She placed a hand on her forehead and exclaimed in exasperation, No, you can't do this. This attitude is unacceptable. This is why people from common backgrounds can't amount to anything. Hearing this, Flame recalled the story and thought, this line was originally, this is why your family was destroyed, tsk. And those words became Iceland's haunting trauma because of the pain of losing her family. Until the end of the story, it was a ghost that haunted her. If Baekhyun knew this truth beforehand, then is he deliberately drawing Professor Maizen's criticism to protect Iceland? Professor Maizen has considerable influence within Stella. If she singles him out, his academic performance will be significantly affected. That's so reckless. That kid, why would he go to such lengths for Iceland? Dying for a girl is truly a tragic death. At the same time, Professor Maizen was furious, shouting in anger, Mr. Baekhyun, what is this insolent attitude? Didn't your parents teach you any manners? Call your parents here right now. At this point, the MC finally realized the serious trouble he had just caused. He thought with a dejected expression, did I forget again? I was so engrossed in alchemy that I forgot about this hassle. How could I be so careless? Then, the MC timidly spoke up, his voice barely a whisper. I don't have parents or any relatives. Hearing this made Maizen even more furious, her face turning beet red. She yelled, if you do things your own way, doesn't that mean you're disrespecting me? Are you trying to outdo me? Baekhyun suddenly thought, well, I've already been yelled at.